Carpets and Flooring.
High fly ball deep left. Ramos going back. That ball is going to creep over the wall. A 3-run homer. Herrera does it again.
That's what it sounded like last night on FanDuel Sports Midwest alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. We're broadcasting live at the E&B Granite Studios out of the Centene Community Ice Center. Ivan Herrera just keeps doing it, man. Cardinals get a pretty damn impressive win, actually. I don't think either of you had it on your bingo card. They'd be coming down for, 5 runs? And that one, Andre Pallante gives you a nice 2 2/3 innings.
Oh, baby.
To start out the game, your bullpen is able to mostly lock it down from there.
Poor bullpen.
And then your offense really comes alive. A record-tying 4 doubles in the game from Brendan Donovan. But we begin with the performance once again by Ivan Herrera. Alex, the other day, I said it kind of offhand. I didn't really think much of it at the time. I was like, Herrera's been a really good player this season for the Cardinals. Certainly a great hitter. I don't know that he's necessarily shown superstar status. And then I checked in on his numbers again this morning, and I was like, is that accurate?
Oh, that's superstar status.
Is what I said true anymore? Because in his last 23 games, he's still batting .295. The average has always been there for him. But he now has an OPS in that stretch of 1,100. He has 9 home runs in his last 23 games. His current pace, if you just he's played in 103 games, I think it is. If you pace that out over 162, he would be on pace for 30 homers, 100 ribbies, and an 850 OPS to go along with, by the way, 15 stolen bases, just casually. And he's had leg issues this season. Alex, did I overstate things? Does he still have that kind of upside?
I mean, I don't know. Yes, he has that upside. The question is, will he hit that upside? Because that seemingly always is the issue with Cardinals players. They get you excited. You have hope. You say, hey, this guy could be a star. Remember Tyler O'Neill? And he was a star for one season. And then it just falls away, and you're like, what happened? I think he can. He's showing you that he can. The question is, can you do it consistently? I can't help but watch Ivan Herrera, and every single time I watch him, I'm like, that's one of those stars that we're talking about, right? Like I mentioned yesterday where BK got a little Tony with me about the 3 stars that teams need in the middle of their lineup. Herrera's got the potential to be the number 2 in those 3. I don't think he's the number 1 guy, the Bryce Harper-esque. Those are the guys you're going to have to go out there and pay. Good luck finding or paying those Cardinals. And the 3rd, they can develop one of those guys maybe at some point. But that number 2, that 30 home run, 100 RBI type of player, that is Herrera. It's just, can you do it every single year? Because injuries become a question. And then the position becomes a question of where the Cardinals going to play you. The bat, no doubt, plays. And for 162 games, yeah, he's got that ceiling that I think he can reach. It's just, can you do it throughout your career every single season and not just be a mirage where you see it once and then you continue to hope that it happens every year?
Yeah, I think he's the lone hope that you have for this potential star, because he does look like he's starting to grow into his power swing. And when I mean power swing, I mean hitting for home runs, not just doubles. I lost a little bit of the faith in it when he had kind of that 1-month stretch where it was like, okay, yeah, he still hit for average, but, the power's not there. There's no slug, as he kind of lost in his legs because of the hamstring injuries that he's dealt with. And the answer was no. It was just, hey, he's trying to find a way to adjust, and he's been able to adjust right back to Major League pitching. And this stretch right here, this is the kind of stretch that a star would do, right? Where you end up with 8 home runs in the month of September. You help carry the offense for the St. Louis Cardinals while nobody else in your lineup is really hitting. That's star material. Now, can he do that for a full 162? That will be his next test next year. But I'm willing to hold out the hope of, okay, you give him another season, another year, another offseason to kind of adjust, kind of work on the swing a little bit. Maybe he can grow into that 30 home run power. One area where I'm skeptical of it is, can he do that if he's put behind the plate? That's the one thing. It's why they moved Contreras out from behind the plate, so they could keep him healthy and get him in the lineup for 140 games. That's one concern I have if they go back to this catching plan. I'm not against it completely, but it is one concern that I have if you put him behind the plate. Now you're talking about foul tips off the foot. You're talking about foul tips off the mask. Your hands start to get hurting as you see catchers all the time deal with that. That's my one concern with their plan going into next year, but Herrera is your hope to be that star.
Yeah, and I think if he is a catcher and he has this kind of offensive profile, even if there is no further ceiling, this is what it is, man, that's a hell of a player. that is a star. Superstar? No, probably not. But can it be a star? One of those three that Alex was talking about? Yeah. And then if you're able to get J.J. Weatherholt and he becomes maybe the third piece. So you've got Ivan Herrera as your Robin, and then your number 3, your tertiary piece in the lineup is J.J. Weatherholt. Now you're starting to see the building blocks of what could be something that resembles a contender, at least to get into the playoffs, even if not a legitimate World Series contender. Now it requires them to do some stuff around that. Now they've got to go probably either spend
you
or
gotta go find your
capital.
Batman still.
Yeah, to find the number 1 guy in your lineup.
Good luck.
But at least you're starting to see the pieces that can come together. That's what we've been asking for all along.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the task is now on Chaim Bloom to find that, whether it's through development processes or evaluation of finding a young player that can emerge as that guy. Chaim is now taking on that role, which I guess if you're optimistic, it's a new face and somebody that has had success in the past of this one. I'm very skeptical because how long have the Cardinals been looking for their Batman? Like since Albert Pujols. So, I mean, it's great to have your Robin, and I guess you could call that third piece your Alfred if we're going Batman terminology here, or Catwoman if you prefer that way. But, I mean, the Batman is what really sets your team above the rest. And, I mean, until the Cardinals find that, you're still going to be in a rebuild. Maybe it's you're a little bit more competitive than in the past, but you're still looking for those pieces, and these are just the hitters. We haven't even talked about the pitching side of it.
So I do want to say this, though. T-Bone, you've said all along, Christian Yelich, a legitimate number 1 player for a contender, right?
Star.
I would say yes.
Star.
He's a 100 RBI guy.
This is where
Or
it
he's
comes
getting
back and
close to it.
bites you in the butt, though.
Since the start of last season, Ivan Herrera and Christian Yelich are basically the same hitter.
There we go.
So it's a star.
They both have an OPS of 835. They are both 35% above league average offensively. So if Christian Yelich can be that player, why couldn't Ivan Herrera be the number 1 guy? I do think the thing is, like, it requires you to then continue to supplement,
it's consistency,
right?
too, though.
You now have to have elite level, like the Brewers don't just have Christian Yelich. They have elite level defense, elite level speed, elite level pitching. So they've got all of these other things that they can lean on. If you're built this way, where your number 1 guy is like the 25th best hitter in Major League Baseball instead of a top 10 guy, it puts more pressure on the other elements of your team. And let's just be frank, the Cardinals don't have any of those elements of their team right now. So it's still, there's a lot of building to go here in St. Louis. That being said, they're 3.5 games back.
Yeah, still alive, baby.
Yeah, if anything, this team's screwing it up.
There was a point in time last night where it felt like they might be 2.5 games back at the start of today because the Mets were losing and the Reds were losing, and at the time the Cardinals were winning.
Nobody wants this wild card spot.
What are we doing?
Good question, man.
What are we doing, baseball?
This is absurd. Now, the Cardinals were also almost eliminated last night from playoff contention officially if they had lost that game, and they nearly did that. So, you know, it's wonky. It's the last week of the regular season. The way that this stuff all works, it is what it is. All I can do, Alex, I know you're not feeling this way, but all I can do as I'm watching this is think to myself, man, remember like the end of July, mid-July, when the Cardinals kept selling us on, well, if you just give Eric Fetty another 2, 3, maybe 4 starts, he's going to figure this thing out, and there's going to be some value in him. And then he never figured it out, and there was no value in him, and they had to DFA him before sending him away in a salary dump. Remember that time?
It was a great time. It was a golden time to be alive.
Because they lost those starts. And it sure seems relevant right around this time when you're 3.5 games back. I don't think anybody wanted to see this team make the playoffs. I don't think anybody's like upset that they're not going to play more baseball. But they could have made the playoffs this year, guys. Like, they could be right now tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Reds if they had simply won like 2 or 3 more games over the course of the entirety of this season. That is the margin for error for a team like the Cardinals, and that's what made it so frustrating at the time and remains so frustrating about it today. Despite all of this team's flaws, they were right there knocking on the door of a potential playoff spot.
Cool. And what would that have gotten you, Brandon?
I think it prevents a rebuild.
Which is a problem.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because I think
this team's problems
does it prevent a rebuild? I don't think it actually changes anything about the way that you feel about this team.
I want to point
you want to
something
take back?
When I said that, I didn't say it with like full confidence behind that answer, but knowing ownership, I don't think they would have torn it down to the studs if they made the playoffs.
My honest answer is I think it changes nothing other than that you made the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you get bounced in one game. Well, two. Okay, sorry. Sorry.
I think it gets Ivan
You call it
Herrera
after
some
one.
playoff experience. I think Michael McGreevy would probably start one of those games.
No,
Yeah.
it would be Sonny Gray and Miles Michaelis.
I think McGreevy would probably start game 2.
No.
He's your second best starter right now.
Yeah, I don't know who you start game 3.
You don't
You
make it
don't-
to game
you don't
3.
play a game
You're
three.
not in game
they
3,
did.
Dan.
Sonny Gray could win them a game.
No, I mean, like, here's my thing. You're right. Sure, there are people that Ebenezer Ferrari was about to come out
It
right now.
probably means Mason Wynn is not. He didn't go under the knife as early as he
Which
did.
is also problematic.
Maybe.
Herrera probably, they're like, oh, maybe. But regardless of all of that, you still would have gotten there, and it would have been fun for people, but it would have been a fake fun. It would have been like, oh, hey, look, you're the playoff team. You still need to go through what's about to take place for the next 5 years. Your team has been this exact same replica of the Cardinals if they would have made the
Agreed.
playoffs for the last 5 years of like, oh, we're a playoff team. But when we get to the playoffs, we're actually not because good playoff teams kick our butt. So, like, this needs to happen. You're right. It still would have happened. But I don't need to sit here and celebrate that they got in. If Cincinnati celebrates that the Reds got in, they've got problems because this is not an award I want right now.
They're also in a different spot. I think it's a
they're
different
trying.
feeling for the Diamondbacks and the Reds than it is for the Cardinals. The Cardinals feel like they're at the end of whatever this iteration
road?
of the Cardinals were, whereas the Reds and the Diamondbacks are at the beginning of what they hope is a growing pattern for their respective teams. So the Mets, meanwhile, like, oh my God, if you're a Mets fan today, you've got to be losing your ever-loving mind. Like, this team being 81-76 is a disaster.
No.
An absolute disaster. They went not all in, but they traded some real assets at the deadline to improve this bullpen. The bullpen has imploded. Their offense is not what they thought it was going to be. They paid Juan Soto basically the GDP of a pretty decent sized country. I don't understand what's going on here.
I forgot. I didn't know where we were going there for a second.
I think he kind of caught himself is what happened.
We got lost there for a couple of seconds.
It's crazy. It's crazy that the Mets are legitimately falling out of this.
Let's not celebrate average or mediocre. Let's celebrate greatness. And we don't want to be an average or mediocre. We've lived there.
I'm still convinced that they maybe don't tear it down to the studs.
Oh, they're going.
They're going
No,
to.
now they are. Now they are. I'm saying if they made the playoffs. Because I'm convinced that after 24, had they made the playoffs in 2024, that they would have brought back Paul Goldschmidt, even though the right thing was not to.
I think Heim being in charge is what changes the calculus on this.
Oh, see, I view it as, though, yes, it is a change of president of baseball operations, it is still the same ownership group.
I still think
I think
ownership.
the only thing that changes, like, maybe Brendan Donovan's here next year.
That's important.
That's a problem.
That's
I
important.
don't know if that's a bad thing.
It might be if you're tearing it down to the studs. But the problem with what T-Bone is saying is I do believe ownership, the DeWitts are sitting up there going like, we are only 3.5 games out, guys.
I don't think you're viewing it that way.
You're negative 47 in your run differential, which is one of the 5 worst in the National
You wait
Division.
until there's 17 press conferences this offseason to sell you on.
2, according to Mo. 1 on Monday with Mo, the other on Tuesday.
How'd that work out last year?
And the DeWitts. All right, he's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Grant France is back in the studio for us today. We are awaiting an update from Jim Montgomery on what happened earlier today with Jimmy Snuggerud. If you missed it, apparently he ran into the boards. I don't have a whole lot of details. I was at the other rink when this took place, but Snuggy ended up in the boards. From what I understand from people that were there, ended up falling down, was down on the ice for like 5+ minutes, took a little while to get off of the ice, but then did walk off on his own power. So we're awaiting an update from Jim Montgomery on his status and what the initial reports are there. We'll get that to you as soon as humanly possible. We will also give you what our immediate thoughts were following the news that Snuggy had gone down. We'll talk about that next here on BK and Ferrario.
Baseball is all about stepping up to the plate when it matters most. And when you've been injured, you need a heavy hitter in your corner. At Morgan & Morgan, we don't back down. We fight to get you every dollar you deserve. No curveballs, no strikeouts, just results. That's why we've recovered over $25 billion for our clients. And
Live from Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite. Bernie Fedorko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK.
Why do I feel like I don't hear you right now?
It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. That's an issue on your end.
Are my headphones broken, guys?
I can hear you.
Okay.
You're loud and proud.
Loud and proud?
Yeah,
Jim Montgomery
loud.
just spoke to the media here at the Centene Community Ice Center. We were hoping to hear from him a little bit ago.
Hoping to have the audio.
Happened, and we were not able to get that audio, unfortunately, because, you know, the show started.
I actually did just get sent the audio, so I'm going to send it over to Grant right now, guys.
All right. Have you seen any update, Alex, from anybody on what took place?
I have not seen
Snuggerud?
any update. Would you like me to just listen to it right now on my phone so I can give you an update? You talk.
All right, Alex is going to find out
Here
exactly what happened. All right, according to Lou Korak, Jimmy Snuggerud is day-to-day. Milan Lucic, who tweaked his lower body, believed to be a groin yesterday, is also considered to be day-to-day.
I think Jim Montgomery said, if I heard it right, anything serious is not a concern. It's just day-to-day.
Okay, cool. That's great news, because when we saw this, the news earlier today, that Snuggy had crashed into the boards and he was down for like 5+ minutes, it sounded like it could potentially be something serious. And I don't know about you, Alex, as you continue to listen to Jim Montgomery's press conference.
Yes, I had to double check myself. Anything serious has been eliminated.
Okay, great.
Woohoo! High five, guys.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah!
Calder Trophy, here we go. Let's go. All right, so Snuggerud's fine. We don't have to have our conversation about what we thought was going to be potentially.
No. I think it's still a good conversation to have.
Your initial thought whenever you saw the news, Alex, was what?
I hope this is not long-term because the Blues might be bleeped if it is. That was my initial reaction, because then the thought process of Ferrario as he's panicking, rushing up here, if he's out long-term, now the depth that we've talked about disappears. Now the top 6 heavy that you are is gone, because you're probably pushing a Neighbors up to there, which now your third line is going to consist of a Bukestad and Texier or a Bukestad and Joseph, and that's not a third line that I can get excited about. And then from there, you're talking about, okay, well, now you're going to have to probably rush Dvorsky. Does that stunt his development? A lot of bad things happen if it's long-term. If it was short-term, I actually looked at it and said, okay, rest Snuggerud, and Carbonell's got a spot on this team now. And maybe he stays on the team. Maybe he gets a little bit longer of a run. But that was my initial thought, was long-term, if this is for an injury of Snuggerud, the depth is now gone, and I don't know how excited I can be about the Blues. But that doesn't matter, guys, because it's fine. Anything serious has been ruled out.
I think my biggest thing was just on Carbonell. If this is a short-term thing, it feels as though that would be the way for Justin Carbonell to make the roster.
Yeah.
Because now you bump everybody up a slot. Probably, my guess is Jake Neighbors in that scenario ends up bumping up to that top line.
Yeah.
He just replaces the Jimmy Snuggerud role. And now you have an opportunity for Carbonell to be that third line winger, either playing with Shin or Suter, and then probably like Joseph or Bukestad. And that becomes your third line. So that was where my immediate thought went, because when you see something like this and they say, hey, he walked off on his own power, I didn't immediately assume he's going to be out for months. But maybe he misses a little bit of time. Maybe that does carry into the regular season. It's a couple of weeks, whatever it may be, for him to get back to full health. And that gives you the opening for Snuggerud to run through that door. Because he has been the one guy, Alex, that we have seen out of the Dvorsky, Snuggerud, Joseph, Texier, the one guy that has seemingly had the constant drumbeat of, all right, it's been impressive, it's been impressive, it's been impressive. It's been Carbonell.
Yeah.
From day one of development camp all the way to where we are today, including the preseason games, he has been the guy that has stood out the most. So that was where my mind immediately went is, all right, is this the opening that could be necessary for Justin Carbonell to make the roster?
Yeah, and look, I mean, Carbonell, because of this, maybe they're more cautious with Snuggerud, and they say, look, we're just going to – they don't play till Saturday, which is just the hardest part. Like, if they had a preseason game tonight or tomorrow, I think there would be a better discussion, because now Carbonell gets another look potentially versus Snuggerud, and that's another chance. Maybe he plays with Thomas to see what it looks like. Like, this only benefits a guy like Carbonneau. And really, if you're going to go down the path, Dvorsky too, but Dvorsky has to take it. Carbonneau has already done his job in 2 games that I think eyes are focused on him. That's why if it was a short-term thing with Snuggerud, I was thinking along the lines of BK. Well, this is the perfect opportunity. Carbonneau fits in now. Maybe you don't play him on the top line role, but Neighbors goes up there, and Carbonneau's on a third line with a Shen or a Suter, and you get that 9-game look. And then after the 9 games, you can reevaluate and see where you're at. The long-term one was my first reaction because I truly think he's going to be in for a memorable season. But the Blues' hopes of potentially pushing for a top 3 spot in the division, if it was a long-term issue, they're gone. Because now you don't have depth from the top down. Now you're focused on one line, and it's Holloway and Kyrou, and everybody else has to outperform what their expectations are.
I do think that this all speaks to the importance of Jimmy Snuggerud to what they're trying to accomplish this year.
I don't want to call it fragile because that feels too aggressive, but it does feel kind of like a fragile build when you build this pack mentality. I mean, it's what we talked about when Holloway went down in the playoffs.
But and I think it's just temporary fragility, because if this were a year from now or 2 years from now and the development continues with Dvorsky and Stenberg, I don't know if I would be as stressed out, because if Dvorsky develops into a middle 6, potential top 6 guy, if Stenberg does the same thing, that's the depth. That's the pack mentality where we've got multiple options that can play into that. I think right now it feels fragile, because you just can't risk losing one of your top 6 forwards, specifically the winger or Robert Thomas, because if you do, you're forcing a guy into a role that he might not be ready for. A year from now, 2 years from now, that's probably the ideal situation the Blues would be in, because Dvorsky's probably chomping at the bit to be a top 6 guy.
The thing that's interesting to me about this with Jimmy Snuggerud, I think both their floor and their ceiling is tied to him. The floor being tied to him is, man, if he's not a legitimate top-line player, you suddenly are really lacking on that top line. The ceiling is, man, if he is a top-line player and he can score 25-plus goals and he's in the Calder Trophy conversation and all of the hype has been legitimate, suddenly Robert Thomas, the 100-point conversation becomes real. And now you may have the number 1 center that every Stanley Cup contender has in recent memory. And you look at the way that your depth starts to line up. You're like, all right, well, I like the fact that you can have Jake Neighbors as a third-line winger. I think he's he is the exact kind of player. I always talk about this with baseball lineups, Alex. You can look at their 6-hole hitter and you can see, all right, how good is that lineup? That can tell you a lot about your team, because a lot of teams have, guys that probably should be batting 6th, batting 2nd, and so on. The great teams, though, they can push that lineup all the way to that 6-hole hitter. For NHL teams, if you want to judge an offense, I think a lot of it comes down to how good is your best third-line winger.
Yeah.
Jake Neighbors is one of those guys that fits into the criteria of overqualified third-line wingers, and all of this ties back to what are you going to be able to get out of Jimmy Snuggerud this season? And so these are the kinds of things that went through my mind today as we saw he potentially went down on the ice. But again, the update for those that are just tuning in, it sounds like the worst-case scenario has been avoided. Jimmy Snuggerud, according to Jim Montgomery, is just listed as day-to-day.
Yeah, and again, he said, like, they've ruled out all of the serious stuff, so now it's just a matter of letting them rest for whatever might be nagging him after that one. So, and I mean, the reason that I think this is interesting is because I told you when we were going through our notes for today, Greg Wyshynski just had a piece out with bold predictions for every single team, and his bold prediction on the Blues was Jimmy Snuggerud finishes as a finalist for the Calder Trophy this year, which means you're top 3. And I mean, we both reacted the same. I don't know if that's really that bold, but to Wyshynski's point, this is a pretty stacked Calder Trophy class. If the first overall pick, Schaefer, makes it with the Islanders, you've got Demidov with the Montreal Canadiens, Bouillon with the Minnesota Wild. Like, there's probably like 5 guys that are in serious competition for this. Demidov is, I think, the odds favorite right now if you go over to any betting app.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they view that guy as a 30-plus goal scorer. Schaefer and Bouillon are going to be top defensemen who could have put up 40-plus points on power plays. So I looked at that and I said, if they're putting Jimmy Snuggerud into that criteria, then you're expecting him to put up 25-plus goals, because you're not going to be a finalist unless you're not a finalist if you score 18 goals and have 40 points. You're a finalist if you put up 25-plus, maybe 30 goals. And so if that's the hope or expectation for Jimmy Snuggerud, man, that to me is more of a reason why I think the Blues could finish top 3 in the Central. Because if you add a 30-goal scorer onto a top line on top of Kyrou, who's already a close to 40-goal scorer, and Holloway, who the Ferrario 5 says he's going to have 90 points this season.
And by the way, has looked like the best player.
It's like that puts you in a position that could succeed this year.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Grant France is back in the studio for us today. Coming up next, the new SEC schedule is going to require all of us to revisit our expectations. We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here to tell you about my friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, which is coming soon here to the Show Me State. New Missouri customers can download that DraftKings Sportsbook app today when we go live. Place just a $5 bet to unlock $300 in bonus bets. And starting November 17th, you can create your DraftKings Sportsbook account here in Missouri and get ready for launch day on December 1st. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
ESPN Sports Center.
Greg Francis here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, the Cardinals staved off elimination from playoff contention in comeback fashion. They were down 5 runs in the 7th inning, came back to beat the San Francisco Giants by a final of 9-8. They'll look to do the same thing tonight against the Giants, and it'll be Sonny Gray getting the start for the Cardinals. First pitch from San Francisco at 8:45. I'm Greg Francis. The Sports Center update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite. Bernie Federko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
Alongside Alex and T1 on BK, we got an update yesterday on Mizzou's future schedule, not just for them, but for the entirety of the SEC. Alex, my initial response was, this is going to be a lot of fun, and also, oh my God, this is horrifying. It was a little bit of both simultaneously. So if you missed it yesterday, the SEC has announced they are going to a 9-game schedule in conference for future seasons. The way this is going to operate, it's all based on a 4-year cycle. So for the next 4 seasons, Mizzou has 3 teams that they will play every single year. They will be playing every season Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Arkansas. Those 3 teams for the next 4 years, they will play against them every single season. And then on a rotating basis, I'm going to try to explain this as simple as possible. There are 12 other possible opponents in the SEC, Alex. The 3 permanent opponents for Mizzou and then 12 other teams that they could play. They will play 6 of them in 1 year and 6 of them in the next year. And then whoever those 6 teams were that they played at home, they'll play them on the road in the next 2 years. And the ones that were on the road will be at home. So you play all 15 teams in the conference, 3 of them every year. And then you'll play each of the other teams in your conference twice over a 4-year stretch, both home and away. So if you're a fan, it's pretty cool because you get to go to every school in the SEC at some point over a 4-year stretch. So if you're a Mizzou fan, you want to go to LSU, guess what? You get to do that in 2027. You're a Mizzou fan, you want to go to see Alabama, guess what? You get to do that in 2027. You're a Mizzou fan, you want to go to Oklahoma, guess what? You get to do that in 2027 and in 2029. I just mentioned 2027 a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Can I describe to you what the 2027 schedule looks like for the University of Missouri?
I've seen it. It's interesting.
Oh my God.
Good, as Liam Neeson once said in Taken. Good luck.
Missouri in 2027 will play Auburn and Tennessee and Arkansas and Vandy at home. And then on the road, they have 5 conference road games that year. At Alabama, at LSU, at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, and just for good measure, their annual opponent at Texas A&M.
Good.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say not a playoff year.
Well, the Alabama is not a good matchup anymore. Alabama stinks.
This rocks because now Missouri will play the 9-game conference slate plus a Power 5 opponent. That means at most you'll have 2 games over the next 4 seasons that don't matter. Meanwhile, most other seasons, dude, a third of your schedule, a quarter of your schedule just does not matter at all. Missouri plays UMass this weekend. 2 weeks ago, they played Louisiana. Before that, they played another directional school that nobody needed to see that game either, which was
you don't even remember what their name is.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. That's now off the table. That's fun as a fan. It also means that our expectations have to change. A 10-win season this year or last year or 5 years ago is going to look a hell of a lot different than what a 10-win schedule looks like in this version of the SEC when you've got to go up against the big boys on a regular basis. You no longer get the SEC East, which is kind of your safe haven. You don't have the schedule that Mizzou has had over the last couple of seasons, which, hey, by SEC standards has been quote-unquote weak. You don't believe me? Just go look at what Florida and Oklahoma are playing over the last couple of seasons. This is tough. This is going to be brutal, but it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch if you're a fan.
It's fun. You're not wrong, but my first reaction when I saw this was, oh boy, you better hope that you make the playoffs this year and next year, because after that, good luck. This schedule is not fun. Now, this is with the understanding of we don't know what Mizzou is going to look like in terms of the athletes that they have, who they bring in. Like, we know Drink is very good, but I looked at 2027 to what you were describing is you could be lucky to win what? Go 500 in that SEC stretch, maybe a little bit below or a little above that. But even after that, 2028 is not going to be any cakewalk, 2029. So I looked at this and I was like, okay, so this season kind of feels like it needs to be that one that you capitalize on if you're a Mizzou, because the schedule's very favorable. You might have two of the best players in the SEC right now. Capitalize on it now, because you won't look back in 2028 and be like, oh man, what a missed opportunity when that team was awesome and the schedule was ideal.
It's like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, you had that chance as well. It couldn't quite get there almost, but could not quite get there, get over the hump, which is bad timing with the not having the expanded playoff to be able to get in. These upcoming schedules are going to make it more difficult. I would also add this. The SEC isn't going to the 9-game schedule for no reason. They anticipate that there's going to be an expansion once again of the college football playoff. And in the event that we see that, I think you're going to see some 8-4 teams, some 9-3 teams from the SEC that get in because of schedules like this. Because the committee will have to start looking at it. They'll see what the Big Ten is. They'll see what the SEC is. And those two conferences, they already get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. You're going to get even more of that when you're playing a conference slate that looks like this. So if you're Mizzou, and Alex, you mentioned, man, it's going to be really tough to just go 500 in that schedule. Yeah, it is. If you can just go 5-3 in your conference schedule moving forward, you're going to have a pretty good shot at making it to the college football playoff. I'm not telling you have to love that. I know T-Bone probably hates hearing this, but that's probably the way that it's going to go moving forward, as long as you take care of business in the non-con. Mm-hmm. You beat Kansas, you beat Illinois, whoever your non-con opponent is, and then you go about 5-3 or better in the SEC. I think that's going to be enough. Or, 6-3, I guess. Yeah. In the SEC, that's probably going to be enough to be able to get you in.
Yeah, I think now that you've seen the SEC, the ACC is doing this as well. I mean, all these conferences have now moved to 9 games. The Big Ten's now the funny one that's lacking behind, where they don't have the, hey, you're required to play a big non-con opponent. They'll change that, because it's going to change the standard to where I think it probably will be. You look at the 12 seeds for the most part last year, and there were the 9-3 ACC schools, but it was Clemson because they won their conference, right? I think that can be will become the standard for getting in, is do you go 9-3? Whether that's 6-3 in the conference slate, maybe you lose that non-con game, but you end up picking up another game in the SEC or in the Big Ten, whatever conference you're in. I think you're going to see a lot more 9-3 teams start to work their way into this playoff conversation. And I think it's twofold. One, you're getting more conference games, so it's a lot tougher now sledding in the SEC because you've added another game, and you're required to play a non-con game as well. That's against a Power 4 opponent. And if we're just being honest, all the talent has dispersed out across college football to what we're talking about again, which is, hey, everything feels so open this season. I don't think this is going to be a one-off. No, I think this is going to be more of the norm. You might get a dominant team that pops up throughout the decade as we go along here, but as this becomes more of the norm, where it is, boy, anybody can lose on any given Saturday, no matter what conference you're in, that means there's going to be more 9-3 teams that you have to look at and realistically say, okay, is this a playoff team, yes or no? And I think that's what you're going to see the committee get to, and especially when they expand to where then you could be talking about 8-4 teams that really push their way in.
It's a perfect time to expand, because you have a little bit more of an open field, kind of like now, where you're looking around with those teams. So it feels like this is the progression you wanted to see, rather than when we found out about the expansion of college football playoffs and we were all like, oh, this is going to be a disaster.
I did not feel that way. I was happy.
I wasn't looking at you when I said that.
Well, you said we all. I just wanted to clarify.
I was looking at one person when I said we all.
I still stand by what I said.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Your team still has a chance.
I think it's great.
They don't deserve it.
I think this is great. I also want to make sure that we say on the front end, it's going to be harder for Missouri to go 9-3. Like the ceiling seasons just got that much more difficult. That's not a loser's mentality. It's just being real. Eli Drinkwitz yesterday at his weekly radio show, they were going through the future schedule. He said, I think you forgot one. I think we play the Chiefs in week 4. Like that's the kind of thing that this feels like.
Oh, that's an easy win.
That was good, Drink.
It's tough, man. It's going to be really hard, but that's the fun part. Is that you get to see these teams. You get to see how your team stacks up weekly. You actually learn stuff about your team prior to week 5 of the college football season, where I've watched a month of some of these teams, and I have no idea if they're good or not, because they've played nobody thus far. So it's better if you're a casual fan of the sport. I don't know if you guys did the same thing, but yesterday as I saw this revealed, I looked through and I was like, man, I'd love to go next year to Georgia or Ole Miss. That's a road trip.
Exactly. Had the same
I'd love
thing.
to go in 2027 to LSU. That's a trip that I want to make. 2028, Missouri travels on the road at Texas. I want to go down to Austin. That sounds like a great trip. And then you get into 2029. Hey, Auburn, that's a place I've never been before. I'd love to go there. So you get, as a fan of a team, if there's a trip that you've wanted to make, and I think Mizzou's only gone to LSU once since joining the SEC. They've been in the conference for 13 years now, guys. So the fact that they've only been to some of these schools once or maybe twice, that's crazy. Now you're going to get a chance to do that once every 4 years at a minimum. I think that's great.
And you mentioned, look, it's going to be harder for Mizzou to go 9-3. I've always felt this way, even in the current version of how the SEC has scheduled 8 games, and I think it's true for Illinois. And granted, their schedule got a little tougher now that USC has moved into the top 25. Oh, and by the way, Washington has a quarterback. But yeah. I think for programs like Illinois, for Missouri, it's not a loser's mindset, as BK had said. But if we're just being honest, you're going to have probably once in every 4 years, 3-year opportunity to where the stars just align. And what I mean by that is you end up nailing the transfer portal, which it looks like Eli Drinkwitz did with his offense this year and how he was able to kind of build this new offense on the fly with a new quarterback and a running back. But also the big thing is, too, how does your schedule line up, right? Do the stars align for your schedule? Because there are going to be years where you look at it and you go, holy crap, we have to go to Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, A&M. Oh, and by the way, South Carolina. Okay, so that year's going to be very hard for us to get to that 9-3 point. And that's just looking at the schedule, not even talking about if I nailed what we do to the roster in the offseason. For programs like Missouri and Illinois, when you get that one opportunity, it's why it's going to be disappointing when Illinois fails on it this year. You have to take advantage of it. And for the Illini, looks like they're not going to do it, just like Mizzou didn't do it 2 years ago.
He's Alex S. T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. And we also have the YouTube chat available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We'll get to questions and answers, and we'll hear the latest update from Jim Montgomery. We'll let you guys hear the audio. After hearing it myself, it sure doesn't sound like anything overly serious for Jimmy Snuggerud, but we'll let you get the update next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care who are here to take care of your HVAC system and have been making people comfortable since 1926. I urge everyone, family, friends, listeners to check out their maintenance agreement because when it comes to an older unit, boy, do you need somebody who's going to make sure that that thing can last as long as possible. Squeeze as much juice out of your HVAC system that you can. And that's where this maintenance agreement comes into play. Twice a year, they come out, they check it, fine-tune it, clean it, make sure it's good to go to get me through the upcoming weathers that you're going to deal with. And all of that falls under the umbrella of if an issue pops up, you get priority scheduling. But you hear me say that all the time. Check out the thousands of reviews. They got a 5+ Google or 5-star Google rating over on their reviews, like this one from Daniel. We've used Classic Hair Care for several years. Our home and small apartment building. We always request Nick, technician, and schedule far enough in advance to get him. Thoroughly knows our equipment, and we trust his professional recommendations to keep it running as well. You only got a few more days to take advantage of this. Is super tune-up in September, $149 over at Classic Air Care. You get AC and furnace maintenance taken care of. So give them a call today, schedule online. Just do me a favor and tell them Alex Ferrario sent you. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
you've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and T1 on BK. So the big news earlier today was that Jimmy Snuggerud went into the boards and took a hard fall. He was on the ice, apparently, according to those at the rink, for about 5 minutes or so. So there was fear. Is this something serious? Jimmy Snuggerud was then seen leaving under his own power. Jim Montgomery, just a little bit ago, spoke to the media. Here's what he had to say as the update.
Snuggy Bear?
How's he doing?
Yeah, he's fine. Anything serious has been eliminated, and he's day-to-day right now. Think of it as getting, bad car accident, hit from behind, something like that, because he went in hard to the boards.
He was then asked an update. Beyond that, Alex, for a little bit more clarification, here's what Jim Montgomery had to say.
Yeah, scary, but I went over it, and he's really out of breath. I'm like, are you out of breath or are you hurt? And he couldn't answer because he was so out of breath. Fortunately, it seems like that's what it was. It's you go in and you just can't breathe. You're trying to find your air, and you can't.
So that's the update from Jim Montgomery. He certainly seemed to indicate, this is not anything serious. Maybe miss a practice or two, but it didn't sound like it's anything more than that. What was your impression?
He got the wind knocked out of him. I've seen guys go into the boards very hard, and my first reaction when I just saw the tweet was, okay, well, this is either a head concussion thing. You don't want a shoulder to be separated. But the way that Jim, first of all, he was joking about it, so that's a good sign at the beginning. But then him saying, he couldn't catch his breath, it's probably just scary because you're trying to regain consciousness of what's going on. You catch your breath because it does feel like you just got hit by a truck. And then after that, it was you just kind of get your wits about you. So I would expect him to be on ice tomorrow, or they're just super cautious and they say, just take a day. That's what they did with Lucic, because he also gave the update on Lucic and said, look, he's walking around. We just don't want him to push it right now. So we'll see where it's at.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers from the 636. Guys, do you think that Illinois would have to run the table to make it to the college football playoff? I think they could lose one more game.
I think they have to run the table. I think because you run the risk of, let's say, Indiana finishes at 10-2, because I think their two matchups aren't the easiest. You're in the same boat as they are if you don't run the table, if you win or if you lose one game, and then at that point, Indiana's got the upper hand because they whooped your butt.
Yeah, I think if you go 10-2 in the SEC, you're probably getting it.
Yeah, I think,
or in the Big Ten rather.
I think they've got one more loss on their schedule. Now, the problem for them is they have to make that loss be Ohio State probably, because if you lose to USC this weekend here at home, okay, well now Ohio State becomes a must-win. When you go out to Washington after your first bye week, that becomes a must-win. And those are two challenging contests. I think they've got one more mulligan, and that's why it sucks. We talked about it going into the Indiana game. You don't really want to use one of these mulligans against Indiana or USC, let alone both of them before you play Ohio State.
Yeah, Indiana still this year on their schedule has to play against Oregon and Penn State. We'll see how those games go. Penn State remaining on their schedule has Oregon, Ohio State, and Indiana. Ohio State still remaining on their schedule has Illinois, Penn State, and Michigan. So these teams all still have some really good opponents remaining. USC is the one that's interesting to me. They've got Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oregon. So you have the potential of having 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten that end up with 2 or fewer losses. And in that scenario, I will find that to be pretty interesting of how does Illinois fit in. The tiebreaker, Alex, to your point, might be the fact that they didn't just get beat. They got dog walked by one of the teams that they could be directly competing against head to head, and that could be used as a bit of a tiebreaker.
That's why you kind of have to beat up on somebody else that you're probably not supposed to if you want that to go back in your favor.
We'll kill Ohio State. Don't you worry.
All right, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, do you think that Alabama will be ranked ahead of Mizzou when they play against one another in a couple of weeks? Alabama, as of today, is ranked 17th. Missouri is ranked 20th. There is nothing that should change where Missouri is ranked other than what happens in front of them. It all depends on what Bama does over the next 2 weeks. If they go at least 1-1, you know what? Yeah, I think they would have to win both games in order to
They got to beat Georgia. They got to beat Georgia to stay ahead of Mizzou. If they don't, I think they drop down to like 19th or 20th, and that puts Mizzou potentially, puts Mizzou in front. They might leapfrog them if they go out there and beat up on UMass.
I think they might be out of the top 25 if they lose this week. Especially if it doesn't look good. If it's close, they'll probably stay in right around where Notre Dame is.
I feel like somebody's going to keep them in the top 25 regardless of how it looks because it's Alabama.
Maybe.
I mean, whatchamacallit.
Notre Dame.
Yeah. Who was the other one that was like moved up after they got their butts kicked in 1 week? And we were like, what the hell?
Florida, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. Like Florida moved up 2 spots. I think Alabama's going to be there because it's just name recognition regardless, but I think Mizzou will be in front of them.
Yeah, my guess is Alabama will be behind them. Whether that's ranked or unranked, I don't know. But I expect they're going to lose to Georgia this week, and they'll probably beat Vandy. But you go 1-1 in that stretch, Mizzou's got nothing that would knock them below them. So I expect Mizzou will be the higher-ranked team going in the matchup.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Last thing here for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, do you think that the new SEC schedule will improve recruiting, lessen recruitment, or have no impact on recruitment for SEC teams? I don't think it really has an impact on recruiting, to be honest with you. It'll impact revenues, and maybe that will impact the recruiting side of things, because the biggest thing here is ESPN wanted the SEC to go to 9 conference games. It gives them better inventory. What would you rather see, Mizzou play UMass or Mizzou play against Auburn?
Mass.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So that's a big part of this. It also helps to expand the college football playoff, which once again brings in more revenue for these conferences. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that'll change. I don't think it really has an impact on recruiting whatsoever.
Yeah, more money in the conference means more money for the players in the transfer portal and NIL. So that's going to change, but I don't think it does anything different than what it is right now.
Yeah, I'm with you guys, Sweet, but I don't see any major implication for recruiting because you're going to a 9-game schedule.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. You can always check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101 ESPN STL. Coming up next, if last night was the final elite performance that we see out of Brendan Donovan in a Cardinals uniform, it was sure symbolic of what he's been for this organization. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite. Bernie Federko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
Swing shot hit to the right field corner. Go, Victor, go. He's around second. On his way to third. Pop's going to wave it. Here comes the relay. Throw to the plate. Here's up the line. Donovan with 4 doubles ties this game.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, if last night was the final elite performance that we see out of Brendan Donovan, it sure was symbolic of the player that he has been for the St. Louis Cardinals. Alex, I don't know what more you can say about the guy. I mean, every time that you have needed him to come through, he has. He plays like half of a season in 2023, where he's got this busted elbow. He has this bionic arm, and finally they get to the All-Star break, or the trade deadline, I guess it would have been. And they're like, hey, Donny, go ahead and shut it down. Get the surgery that you've needed now for 2 months, having been our designated hitter and our, best hitter on the team for the last couple of months. Go ahead and get the surgery that's necessary. Let's get you ready to go for the upcoming season. They needed somebody to play second base. He did it and was like borderline Gold Glove good at that. They needed somebody to go out to the corner outfield. Guess what? Brendan Donovan can do that. You need somebody to fill in for you at first or third. He can do that. You need somebody to fill in a pinch at the shortstop position. He's got you covered there as well. Well, last night they needed somebody to come through in a big way, and that somebody was Brendan Donovan. He was not in the starting lineup because he's still dealing with this groin issue that took place because he played too long through turf toe, which, as we're seeing with Joe Burrow, is not some insignificant injury. This is a real thing that can mess with you, man. It threw him off, and it went all the way up his leg into the overcompensation issue for his groin injury. Yesterday was not in the initial lineup. Eventually works his way in based on his pregame stuff that he did. And then ties a Major League Baseball record with 4 doubles in the same game. Just classic Brendan Donovan stuff.
Yeah. I personally love the guy, and I don't think the Cardinals should move on from him. But with that being said, I hate what I'm about to say. Last night was the reason that you need to move on from him. Last night, if you're going towards what we are saying, this rebuild that the Cardinals are talking about, again, I hate saying this, but Brendan Donovan doesn't make sense for this team. He does not align with the timeline of what you're hoping to be competitive again, because by 2028, he's going to be due to be a free agent, and he's going to keep getting more and more money as arbitration rolls on. You're not expected to be anywhere near competitive till what, 2027, maybe? If they're pointing it the way that Katie Wu said, we're talking 5 years. So it doesn't make sense to align. And Brendan Donovan, despite every injury that he's dealt with, still always looks like he's an all-star caliber player. That's more of the reason why you need to trade him this offseason, because he actually can get you something substantial in return if you can evaluate the right type of prospect pool within an organization. You find the team and isolate the one player that you believe can emerge as a star in the league, pounce on it, because Brendan Donovan's the guy that every team that wants to win now wants, and it's the team that, if you're the Cardinals in this position, every team wishes that they had a cheap, cost-controlled player for the next 4 years who's all-star eligible. That gets you a haul in return. So I think last night was a reason why you need to trade him.
Yeah, Brendan Donovan is kind of the perfect Cardinals devil magic player that you think of like when they developed them over the last, 2 decades, I would say. Guy that can play every position, guy that you can look at and say he's going to be reliable. He's going to be 20% above league average. He's a Gold Glove defender, just about every spot that he can play at. And yet he's also the piece that you look at and go, yeah, you have to trade him, because the one thing you haven't been able to develop, you've developed a lot of Brendan Donovan type players that are good above league average. You haven't developed a guy that is the superstar. And because of that, you end up going into this rebuild that we're talking about. And it sucks, because Brendan Donovan is a guy that you look at that is a fan favorite, right? He's kind of took over the role of Tommy Edman. And Tommy Edman was a fan favorite here because Tommy Edman could play every position around the diamond. He was a good bat, not a great bat, but he was fine. He was about league average. And then Brendan Donovan just kind of took that role. And when you think of the Cardinals in the past, when they have been good, they've got a player like this that is in their lineup. And now that the direction they are going, he has to be moved on from this offseason because of what you're saying, because they need to move on from him. but he goes out with a bang. If that's going to be his last appearance of the year, who knows? We'll see if he's in the lineup tonight or in their 3 games in Chicago. But him going out on top by having that big double that helped them get the lead last night, yeah, that fits what Brendan Donovan is. And it's a shame he never got plenty of postseason opportunities because he's the kind of guy that could have had a special postseason run.
Yeah.
So I'll say this. There's one scenario where I think it actually makes sense to keep Donny. And I think it would be if Contreras says this offseason, you know what, I've changed my mind. You guys are going in a direction where I'm actually not sure there's an immediate future for me to win here. And if you do find an opening for me to go elsewhere where a team wants me and they're in contention right now, I'm not only open to that, but I would be more than accepting of that. In that scenario, you could play Burleson at first base next year. You could put Donny in your outfield next year, and you could still find openings for Weatherholt, for Wynn, if you wanted to, for Gorman or JC. You could still end up making it work that way. He doesn't block anybody of their spot. You can still trade Lars Nootbaar and try to cash in on a reasonable and a relatively significant trade asset there. That would be the one scenario where I think it could still make some sense, but it would require Contreras changing everything about what he has said previously and deciding, you know what, I'm actually not only open to, but more than happy to move elsewhere.
And it would require them to make sure that they're off of Arenado, which, I mean, is still an unknown right now. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but to me, the return you'd get for a Contreras doesn't match the potential return you'd get for Donovan.
I agree. I agree with that. I think some of this also would be like, hey, they think that maybe they're not super far away. I think it's twofold. One, trade Contreras, and two, if you've seen what we have over the last few weeks and you're looking at the National League, you're like, man, there's an opening here, and we could at least sneak our way into the playoffs next year. That doesn't mean that's the full plan. The plan is still a 3 to 5 year stretch where you're trying to get back to World Series contention. That has to still be the stated goal. But in that path, much like the Blues, last year the goal was not just get to the playoffs last year. The goal was this can be the start of a window of contention, right? Like now, last year, nobody here believed that the Blues were a Stanley Cup contender. And we were all okay with that. It can be baby steps along the way toward getting back to contention for something more. That can be the plan for the Cardinals as well. They can try to stabilize this next year, and then you start to get back to contention 2027 and beyond. And if that's the plan, Donovan can be a part of that.
And I agree with that, but couldn't they also have somebody be a part of that if maybe you find a diamond in the rough in the trade that you acquire from Brendan Donovan?
Good, but I know what Brendan Donovan is.
I know, and that's the hard part. Again, I don't like saying it because I think Brendan Donovan is a winning player. It's just he's been dealt a terrible hand of cards. The worst time to be a Cardinal player is right now. But I think they could also do that, what you're saying, and have that mindset of just sneaking in. Because the NL Central and the National League, obviously, we're seeing is just kind of dog poo beyond the first 4 or 5 teams. Maybe Weatherholt can be that with Donovan next year. Like, I think I would much rather sneak in with what you're saying with Contreras on this roster and the pieces I get back in return for Donovan than with Contreras being traded away and getting a lottery pick player and keeping Donovan here, who I know in about 2 years is going to cost me too much to keep.
Yeah, I think that's the more likely path. If I had to place my money on it as of today, I think that Brendan Donovan will probably be traded this offseason, and I think it's probably the right move. But if I'm trying to think up the scenario where not only it makes sense to keep Brendan Donovan, but you could do it, and I get the logic behind it, it's what I was just presenting. It requires multiple things falling into place. 1, Contreras tells you he's open to getting traded. 2, you feel like, all right, maybe we're not as far as maybe we did previously. And 3, Donny is open to it. And maybe like an extension is put into place. That's another part of this is he's 28 years old. He'll be 29 next season. He has, I think it's 2 years left on arbitration as part of his contract. If he's willing to do a below market value deal and you can get him into place and he's signed through, I don't know, age 33, I wouldn't want to do like a super long-term extension with him, but maybe tack on another year or 2. And he just says, hey, I want to be a part of this thing. I want to see this through with the St. Louis Cardinals, the only organization that I've ever known. not only does that make him a guy that you're potentially building around, but it keeps the leader in the clubhouse that we've talked about, both by example and now the vocal leader inside of that clubhouse. Yeah. It allows for J.J. Weatherholtz to be around a guy that, frankly, I would want J.J. Weatherholtz to be around on a day-to-day basis to learn from. I don't think it's all bad if Brendan Donovan is here. I think he's the canary in the coal mine. He is the one that tells you, based on we learn nothing about their future plans based on what they do with Nolan Arenado. We learn very little about their future plans based upon what they do with Lars Nootbaar. Those are musts. We learn a lot about their future plans and the direction that this thing is headed based upon the plan with Brendan Donovan.
Let me ask you a hypothetical here, because I mean, I agree in the sense that that dude is a leader, and I'd like to keep him here. Even if the team's bad, I'd like to keep the guy because he's the perfect person you want around your players, kind of like Shen was for those last few years. Would you trade Wynn so you could keep Donovan?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think
the age. He's 6 years younger.
Yeah, and he's got
also got a lot of injury stuff that has dealt with in the past.
So does Donny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Donovan plays through it.
Well, Wynn played through it. No,
Wynn played through it, frankly, more than Donny. Now, some of his were also not as significant as what Donny. Donny literally got surgery for his elbow, and he didn't want to get it. They said, hey, we're shutting
Only reason I'm asking that is, I mean, because if Donovan is moved, I know Contreras is the leader, but I think you turn to Mason Wynn and say, well, now you're the guy that everybody's going to be following your direction.
I think there's truth to that.
Would you rather Win, or would you rather have Donovan in that role?
In the leadership capacity, I would rather have Donny, but that, to me...
But I think that's an important thing for this team. When you go into a rebuild, you've got to have the right leaders. Otherwise, you're in a rebuild for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's necessary to have that. I can go sign that for my 23rd guy on the roster and get it for $5 million in free agency.
How much value does that guy have in a locker room versus a guy like Brendan Donovan, who stays and is the guy that is like your champion player?
I don't know. My honest answer is I don't know. And that's something I have to work through, but it's not more valuable than my 5-win shortstop who's a Gold Glover, 23 years old, has the potential to be a 20 to 25 home run hitter and bat 270 every year. Yeah. Like, it doesn't outweigh that. I know that much. Yeah. It has value, just not as much value as what Mason Wynn carries, given his age, given his pedigree.
And my only line of thinking with that is, at what point do you look at Mason Wynn when the team is still bad, still hasn't found their star, and you've got this guy who's a 5-win shortstop, Gold Glove, 20 to 25 home run potential, but you're still a team that's bad because you don't have your star?
Yeah, I mean, in 4 years or 5 years, you know what, in 6 years, when he is the age that Brendan Donovan is now, we can have that conversation. Yep. But I'm not anywhere close to that place right now.
I don't know. I'm the kind of guy that puts way too much stock into DNA or locker room chemistry, but I do think it's important, because when you get stink in a room, it doesn't come out.
I don't worry about it when you go into a rebuild, because you're putting stink in the room on purpose, right? Because you want better talent coming in a rebuild. And sure, now maybe you do want some veterans in there, but I think some of that gets overstated. Why did the Astros go on that incredible run that they've been on of whatever it was?
Because they cheated.
A decade. Well, that was part of it, but it wasn't because they had like Altuve to be a leader for those guys when they got there. No, they had good talent, right? I mean, talent's the thing that will drive whether or not you're a winning baseball team or not if you have leadership, right? I mean, I think they kind of showed you an example of this in 24, right? They brought in a bunch of leadership to the locker room to kind of help bridge the gap.
They brought a DJ that was the best friend of Nolan Arenado.
But I mean, that's what their goal was, right? I mean, they basically said it, hey, what are we doing this offseason? Well, we're looking for just someone that will take them out, but also the leadership that Gibson brings to the rotation, which added some value, and Matt Carpenter being there to be kind of a leader and take some of that pressure off Arenado, who didn't really want to be that guy. And what did it get him? It got him sitting at home in October, right?
That tells you the problem was they got the wrong leaders in terms of Arenado and Goldschmidt at the time.
I think it shows you just have talent, right?
Correct.
The talent was the thing.
Yeah, talent in the beginning stages of it, but it was still a problem at the time.
What do you mean?
Like, they still had, like, the first couple of years of Goldschmidt and Arenado, those guys are MVP-esque players, and what do they have to show for it?
Really just the 1 year. The 2022, they had both of those guys, and they didn't have the pitching.
Yeah.
I think that team, I don't think that was about leadership. Like, I think Albert Pujols was a great leader in the room. I think that Goldie was a really good leader in the room. I don't think Arenado was. I don't think Arenado was a leader on that team, but I don't think he was asked to be. That was Pujols, Yachty, and Waino, and Goldie that were the leaders on that roster. And they ran into a team that was hot, and they didn't have the pitching, and they weren't able to break through. I think that was the story of the 2022 season. I don't think it has to be about leadership, at least not for me. If you want to look over the last few years, like, was leadership a problem? And maybe there were times, I think maybe in 23, that was an issue, but I think that's the only season that I can really look back upon and say that that was something that crept into the locker room. Beyond that, I think it's a talent deficiency. I don't think they have pitching. I think sometimes we make this game far too difficult. If you can't stop the other team from scoring, you can't win a lot of baseball games. And this team has had a severe lack of preventing runs from the other team. And that was part of their success in the early 2010s as part of their failures in the early 2020s. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to talk to Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues. But next, NFL Quick Hitters here on BK and Ferrario.
Live from Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center, this is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite, Bernie Federico's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
All right, let's get into some NFL quick hitters. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to talk to Chris Kerber. He's the voice of the Blues. We saw him a little bit earlier today out here at the Centene Community Ice Center. All right, Alex, let's start out with the obvious. I think the big game this week is Chiefs-Ravens. Do you guys agree with that sentiment?
Oh, yeah.
Probably the biggest game on the slate going into the upcoming weekend.
Most at stake for sure.
Yeah.
One of these two teams is going to be 1-3 at the end of the upcoming weekend. Something that I've kind of been kicking around, because we've also got the 0-3 Texans right now as well. I saw yesterday.
Must-watch TV.
Somebody mentioned they think the 0-3 Texans are still going to make the playoffs, and I couldn't really laugh at the take because as I look across the AFC, it seems entirely possible.
Oh, I think multiple teams in the AFC are going to get in that looked like they're not playoff teams in the first few weeks.
I'm just theorizing here. I don't have any like solidified ground that I'm standing upon. So tell me if I don't have a leg to stand on here and you guys want to knock me down. That's totally fair.
I will too.
Is there possibly something about the way that the NFL is scheduling now that is leading to these teams that get off to slow starts that still have a very good shot at getting into the playoffs? I bring up the Chiefs just as an example. They were a great team last year, obviously. They have been for a number of seasons. They start out the season with a tough game against LA in Brazil. And then they take on the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. And then they've got a national spotlight game here against the Ravens. And in a couple of weeks, they take on the Detroit Lions in another national spotlight game on NBC for Sunday Night Football. I think the NFL wanted that. They wanted these spotlight games for the Chiefs early in the regular season. I think the same could be said for some of the teams that have struggled in the past. You look, for example, at the Ravens. They've had a few of these spotlight games as well. The Cincinnati Bengals in recent seasons have had some of these spotlight games early in the season. Now, they also just fail against terrible teams, as we've seen. Do you guys think that there's anything to that? That maybe there's something about the way that the NFL is scheduling now that is leading to good teams having worse records early on, and then it is incumbent upon those teams to be able to make their way back into contention.
I mean, because you want must-watch TV early on if you're the NFL. And so what do you want? You want some of the best matchups. You want Ravens and Bills. You want Chiefs and Ravens. You want these teams going head-to-head because it's the start of the NFL, and you want best on best. And I mean, that's just what you get in the first couple of weeks. And it's just unfortunate when you're the Chiefs and you get 3 tough matchups with the potential of being 0-3 or 1-4 early on. So the scheduling has some to do with it. And then it's just, you get those tough ones out of the way and then it's a little bit easier the rest of the way. So, yeah, I just think that's where we're at in terms of viewership. You want the best games early so you get people locked into the league. Not that people aren't going to be locked into the NFL.
Yeah, but I think that a few years ago we saw really rough prime time schedules. If you guys remember, there was that season, I think it was 3 years ago now, where it seemed like every time you would turn on a Thursday night, a Sunday night, or a Monday night football game, it was terrible football. It's like Titans-Jags every time I turned on the TV. And I think that the league has done a much better job of making sure these prime time games, especially early in the season, before you get to any of those injuries, you get a lot of those prime heavyweight matchups.
Yeah, I don't know how much I buy in to the schedule theory. Because, like, if you're the NFL, you don't necessarily need that because you are such a juggernaut from a media perspective. But they're doing it.
I mean, they had the Ravens versus the Bills. They had
still
the
matters.
Lions versus the Ravens.
Views.
They had the Chiefs versus the Ravens. Like, that's the first 4 weeks of the Ravens schedule.
I think it just kind of worked out that way. I don't know that there is I don't believe that there's personally, because, like, you can look at their schedule.
You don't think they put Ravens versus Bills in week 1 for a reason? You think that was just happen chance?
I think
they happened to put one of the best games of the season in week 1.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was happen chance because, like, they've got other games on their schedule that are really
crazy.
I think they still 2 MVPs.
Theory.
No, I think
they are targeting good games to put them in prime time. I agree, but I don't think they're like specifically putting them in the early portion of the season.
You don't think that they targeted Ravens versus Bills week 1?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they had just Chiefs contest, so like, no, I don't necessarily buy.
I think
notion.
week 1 and week 2, I think they do target that.
I'm not 100%.
I think your theory. I think your theory broke our stream.
No. All right, we're gonna go to break.
My theory.
We're gonna go to break. We're gonna go to break. We're gonna go ahead and get Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, on the other side.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
101 ESPN.
Well, Classic Air Care is there for all your home needs when it comes to your air conditioner and furnace. And if you're like me, if it's hot outside or even gently warm, you're going to turn it on, the air conditioner. If it's going to start dropping and temperatures start to get into the 50s or lower, you're going to turn the furnace on. It goes back and forth during this time of the year. You still have a few days to take advantage of their September special where they're going to come in and do maintenance on both your air conditioner and furnace for just $149. You get them both covered, and you know you're set for the rest of the summer, and you're set for the start of the winter as well. Classic Air Care has a 4.8 Google rating when it comes to customer reviews because they take their customer service that seriously and because they have a 100% customer satisfaction guaranteed. If something's not right, they make sure they get it right for you. They take care of my house. They will take care of yours. You can trust them to come in and get the job done right. It's Classic Air Care. Book that appointment online today while that special still exists at ClassicAirCare.com. Classic Air Care, making people comfortable since 1926.
Grant Francis here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. A remarkable comeback for the Cardinals last night as they stave off elimination from playoff contention. They were down 5 runs in the 7th inning, came back to beat the San Francisco Giants by a final of 9-8. Cardinals will look to do the same thing tonight in San Francisco. It'll be Sonny Gray getting the start for the Redbirds. First pitch from San Francisco at 8:45. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by the voice of the Blues. He's Chris Kerber here on BK and Ferrario. Kerbs, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Fellas, I'm great. You know, I was listening to Grant's report there, and Mike Claiborne and I have this discussion all the time. I think it's kind of fun. The only time in life you ever use the word stave is when we talk about teams potentially being eliminated from playoffs. Or occasionally if you're talking bourbon barrels. But for the most part, you never use the word stave or the phrase stave off unless we're talking about playoff scenarios.
I think that's probably true. I can't think of another scenario in which I would hold or use that.
There's some words that I just worry, or I wonder why we don't use them very much. Stave, like I think dork is an underused word that should be used a lot more.
People use it a lot with me.
I know.
Yeah. All right, that's all I had. What's up?
That's just the line of thought for Chris Kerber today.
All right, let's get into this, Kerbs. You were over at the rink. I was at the other one, but you were at the rink earlier today when Jimmy Snuggerud went into the boards. We heard earlier today from Jim Montgomery. He said, hey, doesn't seem like it's a huge deal. It feels like all of the worst-case scenarios have been eliminated. He's day-to-day at this point. When you saw it take place, Kerbs, what did you see?
Well, you know, he just lost an edge, it looked like. It was right behind Jordan Bennington. And you heard Jim Montgomery, if you guys, you guys might not have had the whole Jim Montgomery press conference, but today was a day where with the pace of camp, he was working on battle drills. He said guys have got to start getting used to taking skin and getting into the battle of things. So pacing is something that's really important for Jimmy Montgomery. So in that sense, today was a battle drill day. So guys are going into corners, guys are going into end boards, expecting contact. Jimmy caught a rut, caught an edge, and he went hard into the boards. Kind of Jim Montgomery referred to, kind of remember looking at it like you're in a bit of a car wreck, and it was kind of back first into the boards. He was down on the ice for about 3 minutes. Jim Montgomery went over there to try to say, hey, are you just winded or are you hurt? And Snuggerud couldn't really even answer the question at that point in time. Then, so all the players are kind of standing around. You heard Doug Armstrong grab the coach's attention. The assistant coaches were at the other end. They pulled all the players down to the other end, kept drilling, while Ray Borelli and his team took care of Snuggerud. About 3 or 4 minutes, Jimmy got up on his own, under his own power, and then was able to skate off the ice and then walk off the ice under his own power. But you could tell he was ginger or maybe limping a little bit. Who knows? The good news is Jim Montgomery said that they've ruled out anything serious. He's just day-to-day, and then he seems like he'll be fine. So that's some great news and a big sigh of relief because he went into that board hard, and it was loud.
Does that sigh of relief, Kerbs, kind of insinuate what this season is in terms of the emphasis on the depth at the top for the Blues, meaning like beyond a Snuggerud, a Holloway, a Buchnevich, can't really afford to lose those guys because you don't have a whole lot of top 6 depth?
You know what? Honestly, Alex, to me, that sigh of relief, I'd have that same sigh of relief if it was Tyler Tucker, Matt Kessel, Alexei Toropchenko, Nathan Walker, anybody. Because the one thing you want to do is get out of camp as healthy as possible, right? Now, yes, obviously it does mean more when it's a top 6 forward or a top 2 defenseman, right? But you just want to give yourself the best chance to be as healthy as possible coming out and going through things. That said, my thought immediately went to this. If somebody like that were to miss time and you find out in training camp, right? That then opens the door where if a guy like Carbonell plays another couple of games, okay, and they play another couple of games and they really like what they're seeing and they're curious what it actually might look like when the snot's really flying in a regular season game that matters. It's a scenario where that could possibly keep a Carbonell around for a couple of weeks, where you keep him for that 9-game window before he plays that 10th game and you'd burn a year of eligibility before you send him back down to junior hockey. So, you start to think of scenarios like that. But to the original question, frankly, you just breathe a sigh of relief that it's not serious when anybody goes down in training camp just because you want to come out of camp as healthy as you can.
Curbs, what are you hearing and seeing about Carbonell so far in camp?
He scored a heck of a goal today. Like, he was cutting across the middle of the front of the net and actually reached back and went far post. Like, if you can picture this, a play-by-play guy, you would think I could have explained this better than I just did. He's coming from the right circles inside the hash marks, and he's skating towards the left circle. And right about the time that he crosses the middle of the goal, he shot back to the right post and put it over the shoulder of the goaltender. It was a heck of a snipe. The way he was described to us by assistant GM Tim Taylor was he's so excited about Jimmy Snuggerud or about Carbonell because of the fact that he's a potential high-end guy that seems to want to just dig in and make a difference. So there's some similarities to his kind of young confidence that I think we saw in a David Perron, to be honest with you. And so I think we're seeing that. I think he's still impacting things on drills. You can see the work ethic is there. The pace and the business-like approach to this entire camp is really something special right now. And I think we're going to see him get another couple of opportunities before it's all said and done. Jim Montgomery said this today, and he said the one thing that's standing out in camp is how good our young players are. And he goes, that's not even talking about how that can impact us this season. That's talking about how bright the future is, because there are some young kids, he said, that he believes are really going to become players in the National Hockey League.
To that point, Curbs, you and I were having a conversation Saturday during practice, and you said, there's one element that I find probably the most fascinating, whether it's this training camp, this season, or maybe this upcoming off season. What is that storyline for you?
Well, okay, this is the thing when you draft well and your players look like they're players. You have to kind of figure out who's going to make the team, because the reality of it is they're not all going to play for the St. Louis Blues. So, for example, whether it be Stenberg, Robertson, Peterson, one of these younger guys, right? The three of them might be battling for, say, 2 roster spots over the next couple of years. Their play, their work ethic, their development, their time spending and improving their craft, that's going to dictate which one of those guys are going to eventually be with the Blues and which ones probably may not be with somebody else. The other side of that is, what do you do with your prospects? How long do you hold on to them? When do they have the most value still as prospects? For when you make a move, they can become impactful pieces where you get a known commodity to improve your team right now. And the Blues are moving into this window because you've got guys like Kyrou and Thomas and Snuggerud and Neighbors and Shen still. And now you've got Suter and Bukestad under contract for a couple of years, right? They're at a point where these prospects, in some ways, are going to be really valuable for the Blues from a trade standpoint, as much as they might be from an on-ice standpoint, guys. And if you go back and you look at the 16 draft picks in the first round that the Blues have had since Doug Armstrong took over in 2010, right? And I'm going to go ahead and lump these last 5 first-round draft picks in there because there's a lot of excitement and I think justified intrigue about their compete level, their skill level, that they can become NHL players. There isn't one player in the first round that the Blues have taken since 2010 that hasn't either played games for the St. Louis Blues, the vast majority of them in a very impactful way, or hasn't been moved for a piece. The only player, excluding these current top 5, that didn't play in the NHL, that's Dominic Bach. But the Blues used him in the trade to secure Justin Falk. The only other one that played for the Blues but then didn't go much more beyond that was Jordan Schmaltz. But he still played 43 games for the Blues. The Blues picking in these entry drafts has been fantastic. And the fact that that trend continues right now is not just going to mean that there's impactful play on the ice. And from a future standpoint, it's going to give Doug Armstrong and Alexander Steen and the hockey operations pieces to then acquire some things that could put them over the top.
He's the voice of the Blues. He is Chris Kerber, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario, doing so at a new time this year. Sounds like we're probably going to lock in a 12:30-ish spot with Chris Kerber most of the season here on BK and Ferrario, so be sure to stay tuned for that each and every week. Kerbs, appreciate the time as always, man. Good to see you this morning. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, fellas, always great to see you out at the rink, and we will talk to you Saturday night on the home game and then see you next week.
See you, Kerbs.
You got it. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us here on 101 ESPN. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, Alex,
Yep.
what he was just mentioning there. Eventually, these prospects either become players for you or they become some kind of capital for you in a trade. The Cardinals have been terrible at this, frankly, over the last few seasons.
Trying to make them all Cardinals.
Yeah, where they hoard
and they
their
wait
prospects,
too long.
and then there's no value left either to them or to other teams. The Blues, I think, are really good at it. They decide early on, hey, this guy's going to be somebody that helps us. This guy helps us by getting us a player who can really contribute at the NHL level. And that's something that's on the horizon, man. We're not that far away from having to make some of those difficult decisions.
Well, and think about what Kerb said, too, because I'll even go further beyond the 2010 that he had as the cutoff. 2009, the Blues drafted David Rundblad. Does anybody even remember that name?
Yeah,
No.
big fan.
He was traded for the pick to get Vladimir Tarasenko.
So I was going to mention.
Doug Armstrong, I know you were. You had it locked in. Doug Armstrong, what another feather in his cap of what makes him great is to what Kerb's just said. They'll draft a guy, and they don't just wait for the guy to turn into something. They'll either make sure he turns into it or say, nope, we already know this guy's not going to be what we expected, so they trade that player away. And, I mean, just think of the amount of assets that they've used over the last 5 years in terms of first round. I mean, we were in Nashville, T-Bone, for that 3 first-round pick. Those guys on top of Bolduc, who's already been traded for an NHL player, on top of Carbonneau, on top of all of these guys, Juracek, they may not all make this team.
They probably will not all make this.
But what they will do is they will bring back a piece that may impact the Blues sooner rather than later. And that's just a matter of when does this window open all the way versus cracked a little bit every single year.
A little bit of trivia for you. How many NHL goals did our guy Runny have in his NHL career?
Trying to one-up me with this. No, 17, man. I don't know.
I'll say 0.
Oh, T-Bone was closer. It was 4. 4 goals in David Rundblad's NHL career. He scored.
How many games?
1 for Ottawa.
Oh.
He scored 3 for Chicago. End of list. He played for Ottawa, Phoenix, and Chicago over the course of his 5-year NHL career. How many games do you think he played in, Alex?
I don't care.
113 over his 5-year NHL career.
Once again,
more than 1,600 minutes
Once again,
total.
I'd say the Blues won that trade.
It's still to be
Is
determined.
it?
But I would.
Where's good old Runny these days?
Well, he hasn't played in the NHL since 2016. I do think he got a cup, though.
Oh,
No, he didn't.
Then we definitely lost.
With who?
Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, he won a cup with the Blackhawks in 2015.
How many games did he play for the Blackhawks in the playoffs that year?
Playoffs, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Regular season, though, he did play in 49 games that year.
That means somebody was hurt at that time.
He played in 5 playoff games.
Oh, okay. You know what? Good for him.
I'm sure his name's on the cup
I
then.
still feel like we're talking about a made-up character, but
Now I'm just going down this rabbit hole. This is what Kerbs and I do in the press box, by the way. Like, people ask, like, what do you...
The what?
The press box.
Okay.
What'd you think I said?
I didn't know what you said at first.
People say, like, what do you do before games? Typically, it's Kerbs saying something, and it makes me go down a damn rabbit hole that I don't come out of.
Yeah, I know. I've heard the post game.
Yeah, they get sidetracked.
Suddenly on Hockey Reference.
They get sidetracked pretty quick. But like beyond the 2009 that I said with Rundblad, 2008 they drafted Alex Pietrangelo 4th overall. 2007 they draft Lars Eller and Ian Cole and David Perron, all in the first round. Lars Eller, if I remember correctly, was traded in the trade to acquire Yaroslav Halak. Ian Cole was traded to get Robert Bortuzzo, and David Perron, obviously, Stanley Cup champion. So 3 guys, well, 2 of them, because Yaroslav Halak wasn't here, but Halak was incredible for the Blues for the longest time. 2 of the 3 in that first round that were traded were Stanley Cup champions. So, like, he turns first-round picks into gold. He's Rumpelstiltskin.
Didn't we get a pay Harvey for Perron?
Do you understand Rumpelstiltskin reference?
Coming up in 15 minutes, is Andre Pallante a lock to be in the rotation in 2026?
What a sad comment.
We'll talk about it.
T-Bone's hoping not.
But next,
Talk about
time
the
for the
first-round
junk
picks.
drawer here in BK and Ferrario.
it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Alex, have you heard about this asteroid that has a chance to strike Moon?
No, I haven't. I'm kind of done with all of these. Like, you remember, what was it, what year was it where it was basically the end of the world? Like
2000, Y2K.
It was a Y2K, 2012, where the Mayan calendar.
Ended?
At that point, I said, you know what? Like, if it happens, it happens. I don't need to plan for it or anything
so you're
like
the
that.
guy in Don't Look Up that hears all of the scientists coming over to say, hey, this is happening. It's going to be the end of the world. And you're like, nah, man, we're fine.
Yeah, when it happens, I'm comfortable with where I'm at and like what will happen afterwards. When it happens, then it happens. I'm not going to sit here and worry about
Science and I are Alex Ferrario. All right, good to know.
So
there is an asteroid that is heading toward the moon currently. And according to experts, it has at least a 4% chance of hitting the moon by December of 2032.
Do we really need the moon? Like, what does it do?
You kind of do.
Doesn't it control the ocean?
Yeah,
waves?
the whole like tidal,
I thought that was right.
I think that's a myth.
Science denier, as I mentioned. So, according to previous reports, there was a chance that this thing was going to hit the Earth.
I think I saw that. Wasn't it like a 2% chance?
Did they send Bruce Willis and company up there to make sure that it avoided it?
No, but we're trying something different. There is some conversation taking place right now that we might have to kill this thing before it hits the moon.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw the documentary about this, but it doesn't go well for one person that tries to go do that.
They're considering blowing up the, quote, city killer asteroid, end quote, which is 300 feet or 65 meters long before it hits the moon.
I have a lot of follow-up questions.
Okay.
I don't.
Like, how many rockets we're going to need to blow up that whole thing?
Not sure.
Armageddon, they just needed one.
There's a lot of planning that, according to this, needs to take place. There's got to be a ramming situation that would be like possible to deflect it, but that's not possible for this specific thing.
The other thing is, like, you could blow it up, but you know, if you break it into like two parts, one part could like then come towards Earth, and it's still pretty big.
It's 380 million miles away right now. So there are some problems with the whole, like, how far away it is. They cannot do a ramming situation. Quote, deflection missions were assessed and appear to be impractical, end quote. So this would have to be like some kind of a laser or something that blows it up.
Well, I don't know.
Sounds like the script from an Austin Powers film.
We need to have a little bit more time here, but it weighs anywhere from 72 million to 2 billion pounds. So that also makes it a little implausible to put it off of its path.
I mean, I agree. We probably should destroy that thing.
The wild part about this is BK is going to actually have anxiety about this for the next 7 years.
Yeah, what year was it this thing is?
2032, so we've got 7 years to go.
Yeah, I'd be a little worried too. You know, I saw it.
At some point, it's all our time, right?
I thought they already could deflect them away, but I guess when they're that big.
Well, yeah, we've got. I think there's options to deflect some of these. This is just not one that it is possible to do so with.
Take out Mars.
They're potentially going to have to use some kind of a nuclear weapon.
Mars could. Mars.
That's only terrifying to think about.
You can't take out Mars because Mars controls the rain.
That's not true.
No, it's very true.
Okay. Now that you're saying a nuclear weapon, I don't know that I'm all on board on that.
Hey, man.
Somebody said ramming situation to deflect it. Just send Jordan Davis. Come on, man. We don't need that. I don't need. It's too soon.
Just both hands up. Probably run it back to wherever it came from for 6 points.
Does this kind of stuff give you anxiety, T-Bone, or no?
Not really. Not until we get like closer to.
That's where I'm
then it would kind of affect me. Although it does. I will say when you see the headline, I don't know how this headline was laid out, but I saw the.
You're all gonna die in 7 years.
I saw the one when it was 2% chance of hitting Earth. You know.
How'd that work out, by the way?
Moon. Well, they've changed it already. So like again, like I'm not gonna worry too much about it. But at first the headline was like, Earth-ending asteroid coming to Earth, and I'm thinking, whoa, oh my gosh.
I remember.
Should I panic? And then I read it and it was like 2% chance, and then like may land on the other side of the Earth, and I was like, oh, in 2030, okay, never mind. I got some time to figure my stuff out.
I remember, so I don't know if you remember this because T-Bone was like 5, but like 2012, I had friends that were panicking.
I did too.
Because the end of the calendar, they're like, there's no more calendar. It's over. It's done. 2012, it's it. We're all done. I'm like, what are you panicking up? Like, yeah, it was the end of the count of the pack because they couldn't count anymore.
If somebody told you, hey, there's a month left, then it's over. Like, all of this, it's been fun, it's been real, but we ain't going to be here a month from now.
I'm going to check out on the motivation of trying to start exercising.
And you were the only one that knew. Somehow, kind of like Paradise, you know, like, I'm not going to give away too much. But,
Spoiler.
You know,
that's all right. The second season's going to suck.
Yeah, probably. They basically are in a situation where they've got to find a way out. It's like the entire premise of the show.
Paradise.
So, if you were the only person in the world that knew the world's going to end in a month, where do you go? What's your plan? You got anything that's like at the top of the list, or are you just coming to work every day, proceeding?
I'm not coming to work. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I definitely am not coming to work. But here's the thing: you're going to do that, and then like, it's going to end in a month, and then it doesn't end,
and it misses,
and then you quit your job. You've essentially like gone on this spending spree.
Let's
that's like,
assume it's a guarantee.
I'm definitely not probably working. I'm spending time with my family, but
going into the most hellacious debt that you've ever seen.
Oh, you're going crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, Luca, and Kara, we're going on a vacation somewhere. We're probably going to spend our time like traveling across
I was going to say, I think I would sell everything, buy an RV, and then me and the family would just drive.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
just
what it would be.
Whatever you could see. Is there a place where you'd want to take it all in?
I'd try and do that. Have you seen that stuff, that social media trend where it's like the perfect road trip through the entire country to where you hit every big city or something? That's what I would do.
I don't know that there's a specific
Where would you want to
spot.
end? Like, if you knew this is it, this is the end, I'm done here.
Boy, I would
want to go to Big Sur. It's the prettiest place that I've ever seen.
Go to
Big
where?
Sur.
Big
It's
Shirts?
Big Sur, S-U-R. Big Sur.
Is that in Maine or
California.
Vermont?
It's in California. Up the coastline going towards
I'd want to
San
go to
Francisco.
Burlington, Vermont. That's where I want to end.
Great spot. I would want to be on a coast somewhere.
I think I would want to end it with my entire family.
Well,
so
yeah,
like,
I'm saying like I would be there with
But I
Luca
can't-
looking out over the water.
No, but I mean, I mean, like,
boom, game over.
I mean, like with my sister and my nieces and nephews and my parents. Like, I don't know if I'd want to be away from all of them, but I can't get that big of an RV to carry that many people around.
Yeah, you could buy one.
I mean, I guess I'd
you're
have to.
spending like crazy.
I'd have to. I don't think they make one that big that can carry like
I'm sure
25
they do.
people around.
I'm sure they
Somebody
do.
said I'd still be exploring the Cardinals rebuild. Coming up
So would
next,
Heimblum.
Speaking of which, is Andre Pallante a lock to be in the rotation in 2026? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite. Bernie Federko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
I like Andre Pallante. I think he's a good dude, and I think he has a role in Major League Baseball. I'm just not sure that it's as a starting pitcher.
Deja vu of getting broken up in high school.
At this point in his career. Andre Pallante last night, 2 2/3 innings, 5 runs allowed. He has an ERA of 7, not a misprint, 7 in his last 14 starts. In that stretch of time, Alex, he's gone 68 innings. He's walked 31 and has allowed 83 hits. So in total, 114 base runners in his last 68 innings pitched for the Cardinals. It has not gone well for our guy, Andre Pallante. And last night was just simply the latest example. They pulled him after 2 2/3. It was, after all, a pretty good move by the Cardinals. They were able to end up coming back in that game. Alex, is he a lock for your 2026 rotation? I don't know how anybody could be with a 7 ERA in their final half of the regular season, but it feels like that might be the case. How are you viewing this?
I mean, he shouldn't be a lock, but where the Cardinals are headed, I think he is a lock. I mean, you're going into a rebuild. The hope is you can move off of the Sonny Gray contract. I would imagine that's the Cardinals' line of thinking. You've got McGreevy, you've got Liberatore, and that's it? Question mark? Because they're not bringing back Michaelis. Who else am I forgetting in that rotation?
Gray, but sounds like they want to trade
I mean, Gray, I think they're going to try and move on from, so maybe he's back. And I don't know if you're going out there and signing anybody or acquiring major league talent. So the options in front of you are Pallante, who's cheap, cost-controlled, not very good, but he gives you innings sometimes. Or we acquire something by trading some of this major league talent and go get something that's close to the major leagues and we just expedite it. That's the line of thinking that I hope happens. But if I'm being honest about it, and I don't know what this Cardinals regime is like, but anything like the past, Pallante is going to be back because he's cheap, he's cost-controlled, and you don't care if his arm falls off.
Yeah, I think if you're doing this properly, when I mean properly, I mean like doing their rebuild properly, I still don't think he should be in the rotation for 2026. Now, I'm not saying you non-tender him. He is going to cost about $5 million probably, but I think you can use him as kind of like a, hey, come in, compete for a job. Worst case scenario, you send him down to the minors because I believe he's got one option left. So you send him down there, and he's kind of the sixth starter that you have in case you deal with injuries because let's be honest, they're not going to get through another full year with this few of injuries that they've been able to avoid this season. But that would require, and this is why I say if you do this properly, going out and signing probably 2 veterans to your rotation. You know, you move on from Sonny Gray, so now you're looking at a rotation of Libby, McGreevy, probably Kyle Leahy, and he's going to have an inning. He's going to run into an innings limit at some point, as you saw with Liberatore this season. And then you go out and you sign 2 veterans, and boom, now you're looking at a rotation. It's nothing sexy, but you're in a rebuild. But you get innings from the veterans, and you can rely on those innings. Unlike Pallante, who right now, like, I don't know what you can rely on him for. I mean, he's going to walk a bunch of guys, give up a bunch of runs. Outside of that, you never know how many innings he's going to go, and you use him as a depth starter. And then if someone gets hurt early on in the season, you don't have to rush Quinn Matthews up to the big leagues.
I don't see a point in trading Sonny Gray this offseason.
Money.
Yeah, we're financially motivated.
Okay.
We're poor.
So you're trading Sonny Gray. You're probably going to have to eat $10 million on the deal. That means that you get rid of the $25 million from the books. Cool. Now we're going out and spending 10 to 15 just to replace him in our rotation. So we have saved $10 million by trading Sonny Gray when I could probably recoup more value at the trade deadline of next year.
Yeah.
And I get 4 months of him starting for my team and hold off on potentially bringing up a Quinn Matthews and rushing him, hold off on bringing up Liam Doyle and potentially rushing him. What's my urgency in trading Sonny Gray this offseason? I see no reason to do so. I understand that that's going to be something that is a talking point going into the offseason, and they may do it because of the money savings that you guys are talking about here. I just think that's hustling backwards. I think that you end up putting yourself into a worse spot. I also think there's a chance that he pitches better next year than he has this year and adds a little bit more value to what you could potentially get for him. I mean, think about this year as we got to the trade deadline, how few starting pitchers were made available. And now think about what Sonny Gray could potentially get you if you were to make him available next year at the deadline. I think that's when he has his most value, similar to what we talked about this year with Ryan Helsley, where his most value might have come at the deadline as opposed to what you could get for him in the offseason. Now, another way that you could go about this is by trading a Brendan Donovan or Lars Nootbaar or whomever in the deal that we've been talking about in the past, similar to what the Reds did, where they were able to get a mid-rotation starter by trading Jonathan India. And that netted them somebody that helped them this year. So that Brady Singer could be the equivalent of what you get in a deal like that. But that means that you're not getting the equivalent in minor league prospects that might amount to something more and could help you in 27 and beyond for that player. So there's an opportunity cost there instead of going out to the free agency market. So I'd keep Sonny Gray, get the best minor league return that I possibly can for all of these guys that you're planning to trade this offseason. And then that means you've got Sonny Gray, McGreevy, Libby, probably Kyle Leahy, and then I'll go sign one other dude in free agency to avoid the Andre Pallante experience once again in my rotation next year. I'd plan on either having Pallante as a bullpen arm, guy that basically replaces Kyle Leahy, giving me multiple innings when I need it, or as a trade candidate this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I can see a world where that free agent that they're talking about, they just bring back Miles Michaelis. And they say, you know what, Miles, how much do you want? We'll give some incentive bonuses as the season goes on. But
really hope that's not their plan. I could see it.
I mean, think of
being the guy that I'm talking about, where it's Sonny, McGreevy, Libby, Leahy, and Michaelis.
That's what I mean. Like, that's the free agent acquisition. And it just feels like the Cardinals are going to be trying to get out of every big contract possible. And that's where it makes sense what you're saying. You're saying something that most teams would do, but I think the Cardinals are in a spot where it's like, we want out of every big contract possible, and if we have to pay a little to get rid of it, let's get rid of it. And if Gray's gone, I think that's more of a reason why you'll probably see Michaelis and Pallante back next year.
I do think, I mentioned earlier, I think Donny is representative of something bigger with the Cardinals' plans. What their plan is with him will tell us a lot by their actions on the timeline for this rebuild, what they're prioritizing in this rebuild, and whether or not they care about winning in 2026 as a part of this rebuild. I think Brendan Donovan is tied into a lot of their viewpoint on them. I think the same thing is true for Sonny Gray. On the position player side of things, it's Donny. On the pitching side of things, it's Sonny Gray. And I think what that will symbolize is how much are they prioritizing just saving money at the expense of whatever else comes with it. Are they simply prioritizing getting rid of as much of the payroll as they can heading into 2026? I would also say this, Alex, I agree with you. Under John Mozeliak, I probably would have given more thought to the idea that, hey, Michaelis might be back next year because he wants to be here and he's willing to take a team-friendly deal. My guess, based on his history, is that we will see Chaim Bloom prioritize more of those high upside pitchers, where he'll go out there and get somebody that has strikeout stuff because that's what's going to have value at the trade deadline. Michaelis has no trade value. You couldn't get anything for him at the deadline because nobody's going to have him as a part of their playoff rotation. One of the reasons why a guy like Steven Matz still had some value at the deadline is because you can either start him or put him into your bullpen and there's value there. So I think that's the kind of pitcher that you'll see Chaim Bloom prioritizing in the offseason because there's still value in him later on. You can cash that asset in for something of substance once you get to the deadline.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it will be a Michaelis type signing. I think it will be one of either a veteran that's got nice swing and miss that they can trade that'll be like a number 4 that goes somewhere, or you look at a rebound candidate. Like, I think in his first year as the Pubbo, either first year or second year, he signed Walker to a 1-year, $7 million deal and got pretty good value out of it, right? Like, that's the kind of move that I'm looking at, that he's going to be looking for. Either a rebound player that they think, hey, he's got some upside still. He might be able to be a guy that can come in here and there's some upside to be a number 2, 3 that someone may target at the deadline, or just a veteran that can come in and eat innings for him. I don't think that's Michaelis at this point in his career, and you're looking for swing and miss. I don't know if Gray will, I guess, signal the money that you're saying of what this is. Donovan's really the lone piece for me that really signals what they're doing. Because if you hold on to Donovan, I can see how you're viewing this more as a retool rather than a rebuild of, hey, sure, wins aren't the most important thing, but we do believe that we can potentially sneak in if something goes right for us. You trade Brendan Donovan, to me that signals this is a full-fledged rebuild. And if that's the case, like, whether you want to call it saving money or not, Sonny Gray probably can't be here if you're the Cardinals because he just wins you too many baseball games.
To me, Dustin May is the kind of guy that I could see the Cardinals going out and getting this
100%.
offseason.
Or Alek Manoah, we were just talking about during the break.
Yeah, I see Manoah, it's been 3 years since
I know,
he's been good.
I mean, you go upside.
Yeah, I don't know that there is upside left in Alek Manoah. I'm not sure.
I mean, the upside would be, and I mean, it's like massive. You're taking, like, you're gambling right there. But I mean, you're taking the chance on him being motivated, pitching well, and maybe 1-year deal. You can move him at the deadline if he's pitching well.
Maybe, and that's like a minor league deal.
Yeah.
Dustin May would be a guy that I think probably gets $3 to $5 million in free agency this offseason.
He's a guy that I've watched him pitch. I don't understand how he gets hit so hard because his stuff looks disgusting.
Exactly, and he this year already threw 132 innings. So you're not going to be limited on any kind of a ceiling for his innings. Like he comes in and he's ready to go. And then it becomes, what's the upside here? How much can he pitch for you? Manoah has not been healthy in 3 years, so he might only be able to give you 80 innings next season. Dustin May could come in and throw 170 for you. It just depends on the effectiveness. That's the kind of thing I could see somebody like Chaim Bloom doing in the offseason. This is well ahead of ourselves to get back to the original point. I don't think Andre Pallante should be a lock to be in this rotation in 2026. And given the fact that they're turning things over to a new president of baseball operations, my guess is he's not a lock. Under the previous situation, I think he would have been. With Chaim Bloom taking over, I don't think that he's going to be handed anything. I think he's going to have to earn that job heading into the upcoming season.
And that's where I find it interesting. If he does get probably about $4 or $5 million in arbitration, if he's not a lock, do they tender him a contract? I would argue yes, but if you're cutting money, I could see how you get to the conclusion.
I think yes, because worst case scenario, there's still value in that as a bullpen arm, just to eat innings for you, because you're going to have somebody that takes on a role next year, and even if that's as a sixth starter, like the Steven Matz role from this year, where he randomly takes starts early on in the season, that has value for you, and that's probably worth $4 or $5 million, even in the open market. I mean, they went out this year at the very end of the offseason and signed a reliever for 2 to 3. So for an extra $1 million to have that guy internally, I don't think that's
where I disagree, I guess, would be like at least Maton had swing and miss. Like I'm not even sure Pallante plays up in the bullpen anymore.
I'm talking about the long relief role.
Sure.
I don't think they have anybody else to have that if you're expecting
I think you'd find someone internally to probably fill that role. I don't know who that is just yet, but
that's the thing, like who?
I think I don't know who they would pinpoint, but I don't know that you keep him around for $5 million to go to that bullpen role.
If you think he's your sixth starter and you have nobody in the minors that you feel comfortable is ready to do that starting on opening day of next year, that's how I think you get yourself locked in that capacity. I don't think you should be penny pitching to this degree. If you're talking about, are we saving an extra $1 million to $2 million? Is that really worth it here to get rid of an asset? And I do believe Pallante is still that. I do think he is still an asset for the team. Next year is where it becomes a conversation on this. I don't think you just let that walk out your door when you don't need to. There's no real reason to do so. All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on 101 ESPN.
more likely to happen? They'll figure it out. BK and Ferrario's most likely to happen.
Three 314-399-9646 is the air covered service text line for more likely to happen. You guys give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start out with this one, Alex. More likely to happen. Ivan Herrera hits 30 home runs for the Cardinals next year, or Mason Wynn hits at least 25 home runs at any point in his major league career.
Ivan Herrera hits 30 next year. I think he's going to be the centerpiece for the team along with Alec Burleson. And I think if he stays healthy, which, I mean, we're putting health into this all the time, that guy's got 30 home run potential. I don't know if Mason Wynn's a 25 home run hitter, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I would say more likely Herrera gets the 30 home runs. You can see the power in his bat. I thought you were going to see that next step from Wynn this year. And it's a little unfair for his second half because he's playing on one knee. But
it's fine. Still hitting it.
Even early in the year when he was healthier, I still didn't see the thump in the bat that I was looking for. So I don't know that he's going to be a 25 home run guy. I think he's probably going to settle in around like 15 home runs.
That's where I'm at.
So I would say, yeah, more likely Ivan Herrera is a 30 home run guy.
I think it's probably Herrera. I think we might be slightly underselling Mason Wynn's pop, though. This year in his first 42 games, he had 6 home runs, which is a 23 home run pace. I think he has said he hurt his knee in like early June. Is that timeline kind of right? And that's right around when his power was sapped. And then from late May until the end of the season, he's hit, I think it's like 2 or 3 home runs the rest of the way. So I do think this year is a tough baseline for him. And last year he had 15. So I don't think it's crazy to believe that he could be a 20 to 25 home run hitter at some point in his career. But if I'm saying which one's more likely, I would still go Ivan Herrera's 30 home runs next season. Alex?
All right, guys. More likely to happen. Jimmy Snuggerud finishes the top 3 for Calder this year, or Dvorsky, Stenberg, and or Jiricek finish in top 3 when they're rookies. So you get the field of Dvorsky, Stenberg, Jiricek, or Snuggerud this year.
I would lean towards...
And all these are finishing top 3, by the way, not winning it. Top 3.
I would lean towards Snuggerud this year.
Say that again?
So Snuggerud finishes top 3 this year for Rookie of the Year, or Dvorsky, Stenberg, Jiricek finish top 3 in their rookie years.
I think I would go with Snuggy.
That's where I am as well. I think there's just a higher rookie ceiling for him, if that makes sense, because you've got the shot. He'll be on a top line with Robert Thomas, and he'll be on the power play. So it's a little easier for him to stat pad a little bit to help with those numbers. Like Dvorsky, he comes up like his rookie year, he could be, third line center. It's going to be harder to win Rookie of the Year that way. Jiricek, he's the one that's interesting, but I just don't know what to make of him. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. And who's the other one? Stenberg? Like, I just don't know if I see that ceiling for Stenberg either.
Yeah, I would go Snuggerud, and I think out of those 3 that I gave you, I think Stenberg is probably the best possibility because Stenberg's got the top 6 upside in terms of like when he plays. I'd go Snuggerud now because if you look at the other rookies, a lot of them are defensemen, and it's harder for a defenseman to win the Calder Trophy than it would be for a forward, especially in a top line role.
Guys, more likely to happen. Illinois ends up winning just 8 games this season, or Missouri wins 11?
I think it's more likely that Illinois wins 8 or fewer.
I think I would agree with that because 11 would mean what? 11 means you're having to win some significant games that I don't know if I believe.
For Missouri.
Yeah, for Missouri. Yeah, I think Illinois 8 or fewer is more likely.
I think I would agree. I think Missouri's going to have a chance. Like Alabama, I think they can beat them. Vandy, I think they can beat. The problem is I don't know that they can beat. And we'll see about Oklahoma because their quarterback's dealing with whatever it is that's wrong with his hand. I think a broken bone, if I'm not mistaken. But there's 2 losses for sure, I think, right now on their schedule. And that is A&M and Oklahoma. And they're closer than you would think. They're not 50-50, but they're not 90-10. But I think you look at Illinois, and it's definitely 8 or fewer because look at that O-line. It's not going to hold up probably well. Their DBs are dealing with so many injuries. They might even lose a game because when I was thinking 4 losses, I'm thinking Washington, Ohio State, USC, of course, what happened in Indiana. Yeah. I could see where they lose a surprise game along the stretch because of their issues in the defensive backfield.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Get to a few of these for more likely to happen from the 314. Guys, more likely to happen. The Cardinals finish the season with a 500 record, or the Reds are the third wild card team. I think the Reds being the third wild card team is more likely. Yep. They're a game back.
And they control, well, they don't control their fate, but they have the tiebreaker. I would agree. I would say it's more likely that the Reds get in. The Cardinals, they got to win 3 of their next 4 to get to 500.
And the Reds have the Pirates for 2 more. Who do the Mets have?
I haven't checked.
I think they're playing.
Mets have the Cubs and then the Marlins. Now. So, I mean, both have kind of ideal scenarios, but because the Reds finish with the Brewers, I think it's the Reds.
All right, from the 618, more likely to happen. The Chiefs win the division or the Bears make it to the playoffs?
Chiefs win the division.
Yeah. I don't know that there's an opening this year for the Bears.
Yeah.
There's not an opening for one team to sneak into the NFC. I think that 7th team is probably going to be.
Let's go through real quick. Eagles, Commanders, Packers, Bucks, and then
Rams.
49ers/Rams. And there's one spot remaining, probably Lions.
Yeah, I would agree. More likely Chiefs win their division. I don't really believe that they're going to, but that's definitely more likely that they figure it out. If the Bears
were in the AFC, I could see it.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Bears at the AFC could be one of those final 2.
How many teams are you confident? You got to put your life on it. This team will make the playoffs in the AFC today.
Bills and Ravens. And Chiefs. I'd put the Chiefs there. Chargers. My life's on it, so I've got 4.
I would do Bills. I would do Ravens. I would do Chargers, and that would be about it.
You're not going to put your life on the Chiefs, huh?
No. I think they'll get there.
You're willing to put your life on the Ravens if you're not willing to do it on the Chiefs.
I think the Ravens are going to figure it out.
Both are 1-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the Ravens beat the Chiefs this week, and they're 2-2, and now things look a little better for them. When you're the Chiefs, you're 1-3, and there's still another losable game on their schedule before Rice comes back when they play the Lions. You're looking at 2-4. Like, yeah, maybe they figure it out. Or it's also possible that all the underlying stuff that we're seeing is going to prevent them from getting to what we think their ceiling is too when they have their pieces back. I would only do those 3 teams that I said.
I think the Ravens are in a really interesting spot right now. I'm not sure that I don't think it's a guarantee they're winning this weekend. I will pick the Ravens to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. It's only a 2.5-point spread. You know, it's not crazy to believe that, hey, weird stuff happens, the ball bounces in favor of Kansas City. And then next week, they've got the Texans, who, despite all of their deficiencies offensively, it's still a really good defense. And then you've got the Rams. It's in play. They could start 1-5. So I'm not putting my life on the line for the Ravens to get into the playoffs this year. I think they will, but I do not think that it is a guarantee at this point. I would say the same thing is true for the Chiefs. I think they're going to get in. I'm not willing to put my life on the line. The only 2 teams that I'm willing to put my life on the line for right now are the Bills and the Chargers in the AFC. That's it.
The other thing
I'll put my life on the line because the AFC is awful beyond these teams that we're questioning.
The other thing that I think helps the Ravens, and I think it's kind of floating under the radar a little bit, is how weak I think their division is. Like, the Bengals are not the same team without Joe Burrow. He's out for 3 months. Look, they won a game with Jake Browning. Okay, that's a cute story. They just got clobbered when they saw the Minnesota Vikings. Pittsburgh, I don't think, is very good. And Cleveland stinks. They've got a good defense, but they're not a playoff team. Like, Ravens can win their division by, I think, getting to, 10 wins? That's all they have to get to. I think they're a 10-win team. I don't have any question about that.
That defense is concerning to me. I think the defense has real issues. Their offense is legit, but that defense has allowed 96 points on the season.
Talking Ravens?
Yeah, that's not...
They're missing a couple of guys. Aren't they missing a big pass rusher? And, oh, my God, why can't I think of his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the defensive lineman. Like, I mean, that's a massive. Yeah, that's a massive line rush or pass rusher for him. Yeah,
that's who it was.
I don't know that he fixes everything that's playing.
No, he doesn't. But I mean,
it's not great when I look up here and I see. Okay, so BK says 96 points. Okay, who's giving up more in the AFC? Dolphins, end of list.
Yeah, it's a. And they played good offense.
I was just saying, they
played
went
the
up
Bills,
against...
they played the Lions, but they also played the Browns. So, like, they gave up 17 points in one of these games, and they've still given up 90-plus through the first 3.
Well, that just tells you they're not going to win the Super Bowl, which I could have told you that before the season even began.
All right, coming up next, so much for John Mateer being the Heisman candidate that everybody is backing. He is now going to miss the next month. What does that mean for the Heisman conversation? What does that mean for Oklahoma's college football playoff consideration? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
BK, football is back, and over at Underdog is the perfect place to select entries and win money all season long. And the best part about it is you can play right now in Missouri. It's simple to use. I've already got my picks set up for Thursday night football. Seahawks and Cardinals. Here's my entry for you. Smith and Jigba higher on receiving yards. Walker higher on touchdowns. Sam Darnold higher on passing yards. Harrison higher on receiving yards, and McBride higher on touchdowns. I think this one's going to be a shootout. That pays 21 times odds over on Underdog.
You love to see that. You can also get your picks in right now for the Ryder Cup. You can get your picks in for tonight's Cardinals games as well. Whatever it is that you're looking for, they might have it over there at Underdog. So be sure to play today. It's easy to do. Choose whether your favorite players are going higher or lower on some of their stats. Get your entries right. You could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Here's what we need you to do. Download the app today. Sign up using our promo code. That promo code is BKO. That's right. It's promo code BKO. Score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. It's promo code BKO on the Underdog app, where millions of fans have already won billions making plays. Will you be next? Underdog. Make plays, win money. Must be 18 or older. Present in Missouri. Terms to apply. See assets.underdogfantasy/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Great Francis here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals still not mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. That thanks to an incredible comeback last night. The team was down 5 runs in the 7th inning. They came back to beat the San Francisco Giants by a final of 9-8. Tonight, the Cardinals will look to do more of the same against the Giants. It'll be Sonny Gray getting the start for the Cardinals, and first pitch from San Francisco will be at 8:45. I'm Great Francis. The Sports Center update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alex, big news was dropped yesterday, seemingly out of nowhere. I had not seen any reporting on this whatsoever. John Mateer played really well on Saturday against Auburn in a game that was mired in criticism over the referees and what they allowed in that game. But Oklahoma, huge win. Huge win. He finishes the game, seemingly nothing afterwards, does his press conference. And then yesterday it was announced, hey, John Mateer is going to undergo surgery on his throwing hand, and he's going to be out for at least the next month. And so the Heisman favorite, as of today, is now going to miss about a month of play while Oklahoma is going through some huge games, Alex. This has significant ramifications for the Heisman conversation. It is also significant for Oklahoma's potential to get into the college football playoff. The next 4 games, if John Mateer does miss a month: Kent State, okay, they probably won that one.
Even without Mateer.
But then after that, they've got Texas, they travel to South Carolina, and then they play against Ole Miss. What do you think this means? We can all agree. I think he's probably out of the Heisman consideration. I don't think you can miss 4 games over the course of a 12-game season and still win the Heisman. Right. It's a regular season award. You've just missed a third of your schedule. You're ineligible, in my opinion, at that point in time, as long as somebody steps up. But for the college football playoff side of things, Alex, what does this mean for Oklahoma? Because after last week, they're at least in the conversation now.
Yeah, I mean, like, even without Mateer, you would imagine that the Kent State one's a victory for you. And then it comes down to the other 3. And let's say you lose 2 of them. You go 2-2 in that 4-game stretch and he comes back. I mean, that's 2 losses, but it feels like everybody's reasoning behind it will be, yeah, but they were without their best player. And if you run the table the rest of the way, you're still going to be viewed as one of the top teams and get in.
Think they can do that? Because they're rest of the way after those 4 games I just mentioned.
Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, and LSU.
At Tennessee, at Alabama, home versus Mizzou, home versus LSU.
And I know you're
4
emphasizing
straight ranked opponents.
And I know you're emphasizing the but from what I've seen,
it's a big deal, man.
Yeah, no, but I know. But from what I've seen from Mateer, I think even on the road in Alabama with Mateer, Oklahoma's the better team than Alabama.
Maybe we haven't seen him on the road against a legit opponent yet. So I have no idea what this team's going to look like on the road. Going on the road's a big deal in the SEC.
No,
it's the last thing that I still need to see from Mizzou. We still have not seen them go on the road this year either. And that at Alabama game, to me, I think that's a bigger test for Mizzou than home versus Alabama.
And maybe I'm underselling Alabama. I just don't think they're that competitive of a team this year. And I think Oklahoma with Mateer has been very, very. They're a different tier level than what Alabama has been. But I understand what you're saying on the road. Like, yes, LSU is a tough matchup, but it's the final game of the season, and it's at home for Oklahoma. Mizzou, obviously, we've talked about that one. In Tennessee, it really comes down to that Tennessee-Alabama stretch. And if you feel like Mateer can put you above the rest, because after that 2-2 stretch, if they go 2-2 without Mateer, I don't know if you have any wiggle room to lose, because you've mentioned it before. There's going to be
no, that's it.
There's going to be a lot of open in the SEC, but I don't know if you can afford to lose any more of those games.
If you go 2-2, you have to run the table. You have to win out in order to make it to the college football playoff, in my opinion.
I don't think people will give them the lean, though, even if they're 3 losses.
I mean, they kept Florida State, who was
that's
perfect
true.
without their backup quarterback out of a
Now, that was a little
playoff.
different because their backup quarterback would have been playing in the playoff.
He got hurt in the last game.
As opposed to this, where Mateer would be eligible to play and participate in the postseason. But yeah, I mean, if you've got 2 losses on your resume, they're probably to Texas and or Ole Miss, most likely.
That would be my guess.
And those would be teams that you're directly competing with for a playoff spot in the SEC. Now you're talking about Texas, Ole Miss, maybe it's Georgia as well getting in, and you're talking Oklahoma's just going to have so much competition. I don't know that it's going to be good enough for them.
And the tough part, going 2-2 in that stretch without Mateer, to your point of how difficult it is to be on the road in the SEC, you do have to play South Carolina on the road. So, I mean, and without your best player, I know South Carolina's, but we saw South Carolina at least be competitive. So
their place is not an easy place to win, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically this is an uphill battle. I mean, needless to say for Oklahoma without Mateer. And I mean, your potential fun season just went down into the dumpster.
Sucks, man, because they are a really fun storyline this year. I sold their stock. I didn't know what to make of them. Mateer is a fun storyline, but they're basically importing a brand new offense. They brought in their new offensive coordinator who was the OC last year for Mateer at Washington State, and they said, hey, we can make this work here at Oklahoma. There's no guarantee of that working when you're going from whatever that Pac-12 was to this version of the SEC. Well, the defense is really good. It's lived up to every possible expectation that they had this year. And the offense has been pretty darn solid as well. And last week they got their first huge test against Auburn, and they passed that test. Without Mateer, though, he's the thing that makes it all go. He's the guy that makes the offense possible. So, I mean, we say going 2-2. They could go 1-3 in this stretch. And then, boom, poof. Postseason conversations about Oklahoma over before they ever really started. It's a bummer for the SEC. It's a bummer for Oklahoma fans. It's also a bummer in some ways for Mizzou because it means one of the biggest possible wins on their schedule might actually be docked a bit compared to what it should be seen as, because Oklahoma might end up losing a couple of these games. And then, like, Alabama might be 2-2 or worse whenever you're playing against them. Vandy at that point might have a couple of losses already on their schedule. Oklahoma might have 3+ losses on their schedule. What appeared to be a pretty strong schedule at one point, you're lacking in quality wins on it.
Jamie, you guys play nobody.
Yeah, I was going to say, so at the end of the season, we will all be correct in saying that Mizzou literally beat nobody this year.
They could lose to Texas A&M, and they might not have a single win against a team that had fewer than 4 losses
I
on their
knew
schedule.
your team was a bunch of phonies.
It's crazy. I think these teams are good, man.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is they are, like, really good 4-loss teams, right? But that goes to show you what the SEC is. I think if it makes you feel a little better, if you want something here, I think Oklahoma's going to go 3-1 in this stretch. And part of this, too, it sounds like Mateer thinks he can get back for that Red River rivalry.
That'd be huge.
Now, you want to get back and be healthy, not rush yourself and then really re-aggravate this hand injury that you're dealing with. But their defense, you mentioned, is so good. They could beat Texas because Arch Manning's terrible. Like, that's the reason I have some thought process on this. Same with Lenore Sellers. Sellers will make some big plays in that game. Their defense will knock him back behind the sticks to where I think their defense is good enough to help absorb this loss. I think they go 3-1 in the stretch if he misses those 4 games.
I hope so, because it would set up for one hell of a final stretch of the season, including that game against Mizzou. But, man, if you're a Mizzou fan, you want Ahmad Hardy to be into the legit Heisman consideration. This is the kind of thing that you needed. You need some of these quarterbacks, and I know Drinkwitz mentioned this yesterday at his press conference. You need the quarterbacks to either start having some blemishes on their resume or like this. I obviously don't wish injury upon anybody. I enjoy watching John Mateer play, so I'd rather get to see him, especially in that game against Texas. But these are the kinds of things that have to happen for a non-quarterback to get into the conversation in a year that you don't have Travis Hunter, who's doing something we've never seen happen before, or at least not in the last 20-plus years at the collegiate level. All right, coming up next, we'll have the rewind here on 101 ESPN.
From Blues training camp at the Centene Community Ice Center, this is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Bud Light, Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea, and E&B Granite. Bernie Fedorko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring. Let's run it back with the Daily Rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That is always sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
We talked today about Ivan Herrera opening our eyes once again to what he could still become. He is now on pace over the course of the season for 30 home runs and 100 RBI, which is the exact kind of bat that the Cardinals have been missing in their lineup. Jimmy Snuggerud had a bit of a scare earlier today. Sounds like he avoided worst-case scenario. He's listed as day-to-day. We gave our full thoughts on that as well, and our thoughts on the SEC schedule that they released yesterday, what it means for Mizzou, both in the here and now and in the future. Alex, for today's show, I'd give it a solid 7.8, just because of the injury scale.
I'm 9.3 because I thought I was phenomenal today.
I thought you were good.
Whoa. I say phenomenal, you say good.
I'll go like 8.2.
Because I was phenomenal today.
He brought it up. That's for sure.
You guys.
You're science denying. I didn't appreciate.
There was no
that.
science denying. What are you talking about? I was saying I'm comfortable where I'm at in life and what's ahead for me. I never said I deny science.
My 8.2. Why I would dock us today. BK made me really, think deep thoughts about like if the world was ending.
Yeah, I'm sorry for making me think.
And like let's just be honest, Centene, we crashed twice. That was nerve-wracking.
Don't have to bring that up.
Snuggerud crashed also, and he's healthy.
Cardinals back in action this evening. They are taking on the San Francisco Giants. I mentioned this because they are still technically alive for the National League playoff conversation.
Nothing worse than West Coast baseball when your team's bad.
I know.
Yeah, the Cardinals got done last night at, 11:30?
Yeah.
It's funny you thought I was awake.
I almost turned it off after they went down. Was it 5? I was like, I could probably turn it off. I was like, I'll keep it on. I'm still working on some stuff.
Yeah, we had some Big Brother to catch up on, and we had to hold off on that until we were able to watch this Cardinals game. All right, Cardinals have won 4 of their last 5 to stay alive. One of those losses was actually in extras, so they could very easily be within 2.5 games of the New York Mets. They're trying to hold off elimination tonight. They've got to get another win. Sonny Gray on the mound. He is taking on Brubaker out there in San Francisco.
Isn't that a pirate?
JT Brubaker this season
he's got a Pirates picture on his logo.
Done a lot of relieving. So this is a bullpen game for the Giants. Alex, do you think the Cardinals hold them off and continue to stay alive?
You know what?
Playoff conversation.
Why not? Because obviously our text line and Graveyard Chat wants to see the Cardinals as a playoff team, so they'll just continue to stave off elimination.
I'll say they win, but wouldn't they be eliminated if somebody wins tonight? If the Mets win, aren't they eliminated? I think they are.
I think it's 4 games, so no, they would still be alive.
No, they just continue to go down to it.
Oh, my gosh.
If the Mets lose every game the rest of the way and the Cardinals win every game, I think they would still technically be able to get in.
All right, well, I'll say they win tonight, and they're still alive.
Here come the Marlins, ladies and gentlemen.
Sonny Gray has another good performance out there in San Francisco, gets his ERA closer to 4.
Oh,
on the
good.
season.
Yeah, let's keep that guy.
And the Cardinals find a way to get the win just to make things interesting. Dude, the Mets could lose their next 2 games, and it wouldn't surprise Boyd and Imanaga on the mound for Chicago over the next couple of days. And then it's Miami, who has Sandy Alcantara and Cabrera and Perez on the mound.
There's one thing about Miami, they can pitch.
Dude. There's no guarantee that the Mets find a way to get into the playoffs.
At this point, I'm rooting. I don't enjoy watching the Reds. I can't believe Arizona's still in this thing. But I saw today they're going to have probably 2 guys finish top 5 in MVP voting, and Carroll and Perdomo. You know what? I want to see the Mets fall apart. I want to see one of these teams.
I'd rather see the Diamondbacks get in.
I agree. I would rather see the Diamondbacks get in than the Mets.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. I would vote.
I was trying to set you up. You're all posers. None of you want to see the Cardinals get in.
And then the AL, I think it's cool that the Tigers are are imploding right now.
Why, man? I thought we were celebrating the Tigers.
We
being
were,
good.
and I think that they are the exact kind of team that we're talking about. If you don't have a superstar, it's really hard to have consistent success. They were able to do it for 100 games. And guess what? Over time, you end up getting figured out in Major League Baseball. All right. He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Shout out to Grant Francis, who's been back in the studio for us today, holding everything down as we are out here at the Centene Community Ice Center. We'll be back out here tomorrow. Hopefully we get a player, maybe Tom Stillman as well. We'll see.
Both.
We'll do our best for you on
Optimistic.
that front. We will talk to you then. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.